Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Uchiha, Draw Your Swords. Cut Down the Konoha. Chapter 61. Ruahuo's voice exploded throughout the sealed space. The eyes flashed with scarlet light, and the pupil power with the brand of Indra penetrated the cage of 8-sign seal and went straight to 9 tails. It was different than when I first met 5 tails. 8-sign seal space is also a spiritual space. Although this is Kushina's home court, Sharingan's power can obviously be put to better use. This time, 5 tails and 9 tails have a clearer perception of Ruahuo's eye power and Indra's brand. Indra, 9 tails was a little in disbelief. Compared to the 5 tails that had just broken free from the seal, the current 9 tails is obviously less chaotic. Ruahuo first made a stop gesture to 9 tails, flew from 5 tails head to Kushina, and shook his hand. Kushina, no respond. Pepper, still no response. Red-haired tomato, still no response. That's stable. I didn't expect Sharingan to be so useful in the spiritual space. Eliminating the invasion step and connecting directly, the effect seems to have increased a lot. So in the future, when we recognize other tailed beasts, maybe we can ask Kushina. He is connected to him on the left, and other Jinchuriki and Kushina are connected to the right. I feel like I can control each one accurately. Not bad. Ruahuo nodded with satisfaction. After confirming that Kushina had been charged, he turned to look at 9 tails, looked around, shook his head, and said with some ridicule. A little embarrassed, Kurama. Quote. 9 tails, who was full of Tsunere attributes, rarely became angry after hearing this. It stared at Ruahuo's 3 Magatama and remained silent for a long time. Still unable to deny Indra's chakra, it spoke in a complicated tone. You are not the same Indra the first, remember. Indra. This response is a bit awkward, but it is indeed Kurama's intuitive feeling now. Everywhere looks like Indra. No. If you close your eyes and just feel this chakra, this is Indra. The old man only had these 2 sons, so it was impossible for him to remember them wrongly. But looking at it, in addition to strength, he also lost a lot of things in reincarnation, but he also gained a lot, Kurama. Kokuo spoke in a complicated tone and explained. This actually helped Ruahuo save some energy. This is no longer the world I know. What I used to be like no longer matters. Ruahuo waved his hand and said openly, let's get to know each other again. I am Indra who has awakened from reincarnation. I am also the ninja of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Ruahuo. This world has been polluted by humans and turned into chaos. I decided to re-establish a new order for this world and restore the glory of the ninja sect era. Kurama, will you assist me? Ruahuo told 9 tails the same words again. But the situation of 9 tails is obviously more complicated than that of 5 tails. 5 tails broke out of the sealed space by himself. And now 9 tails is separated from him by an 8-sign seal. Of course, Indra, help me remove this seal first, quickly. The more 9 tails talked, the more excited he became. How dare you seal me for so long? I want to kill this woman, and then kill all the fools in Konoha. Kill them all. 9 tails' murderous intent was as strong as stress. In the sealed space, the water surface representing Kushina chakra was splashed with ripples by 9 tails' murderous intent. Ruahuo suddenly felt something bad and retreated decisively, flying back to 5 tails' head. Before 9 tails could react, he saw that the hateful red-haired woman finally woke up and said with some displeasure, why are you still so noisy, big fox? Oh no. Kurama. Ruahuo could see clearly. With Kushina's awakening, the influence that 9 tails had on outside the seal disappeared directly. The water surface inside the seal rippled, but there was no fluctuation outside the seal. What a strong seal. 5 tails also discovered that this was not on the same level as the seal it encountered in Han's body. And this woman's chakra also has a strong restraining effect on me and Kurama. Quote. Ruahuo didn't respond. In Kushina's conscious space, she can't have private conversations with 5 tails. Not only him, but also what 5 tails wants to express is open to the outside. You don't deserve to call me by my name. Woman. 9 tails was touched and went into rage mode, completely crazy. Indra, please help me destroy this seal. I will kill this woman with my own hands. Roar. 9 tails roared again, but Kushina obviously didn't take it seriously. She stretched out her slender finger and lightly scratched Nine Tails. What I call you is my business, don't keep yelling. Boom. A red torii gate, the same style as the Myojin gate, fell from the sealed space, accurately hitting Nine Tails' neck and pressing Nine Tails' head to the water. Boom boom boom. Torii gates fell down one after another, locking Nine Tails' tail and limbs one after another. Have a good sleep. Really, after teaching for so long, I still have no manners at all. Quote. Kushina looked at Kushina, who just moved her fingers and pressed Nine Tails to the ground and rubbed it. Ruahuo suddenly regretted that he had mentioned his Ninja World Security Department plan to Nine Tails so early. This Nine Tails' temper was too bad. He got stressed out for no reason, and even disturbed Kushina's chakra, causing Kushina to wake up immediately. If I had known earlier, I would have ordered chakra and built this tailed beast herd first. Kushina is really not that easy to deal with Jinchuriki, even though he has a Sharingan. Chakra is a combination of physical energy and mental energy, with chakra senju and whirlpool, and is born with a certain resistance to genjutsu. Otherwise, there would be nothing to do with senju during the war. Uchiha walked down the road in twos and twos, one person controlled the other's archer shuriken, and he had already pushed it. But Ruahuo actually never thought about going against Kushina. He's not a big bad guy. No grievances, but for the sake of an arrogant fox, you have to kill people. Even if there is going to be a war with Konoha, that is not a matter now. The current 5-year plan is development and confrontation with Konoha. That is the third 5-year plan, which is still far away. Although there is a high probability that I can't beat him now. Hey, little guy, why do you know the name of this big fox? After cleaning up Nine Tails, Kushina is ready to clean up Ruahuo. Wakahara stared at Kushina with squinted eyes. Kushina definitely didn't know she was hit by genjutsu. Otherwise, her hair would be flying by now, and Kushina couldn't bear those taboo words. Kushina also stared at Ruahuo with squinted eyes. She has been getting along with Nine Tails for so many years. Every time she comes here, Nine Tails doesn't communicate with her at all except yelling and saying some very annoying things. This must be the first time this little guy has come here. But why does the big fox seem to have a good relationship with him? In addition to curiosity, Kushina was also a little jealous. Tailed beasts all have their own names, you just don't know them. Ruahuo crossed his arms across his chest and said coolly, only the purest will of fire can be recognized by the tailed beast, and your will of fire, ha. I don't want the approval of this big fox. Kushina muttered and looked back at the hypnosis, Nine Tails. This big fox only looked cute when sleeping. So are you planning to help this big fox break the seal? Kushina turned around, her tone becoming a little dangerous. Ruahuo's expression was serious. He thought about it seriously, nodded first, and then shook his head. Tailed beasts all long for freedom, so in order to gain their power, they are sealed within their bodies. This is a very bad practice. This is what I said to Five Tails. This Indra still cares about the rights of tailed beasts, so please rest assured, babies. But now Kurama seems to have a very bad personality, always thinking about killing people, etc. This is a bit difficult to handle. Ruahuo ignored Kushina's dangerous gaze and patted Kokuo's horns. Kokuo, was Kurama so irritable before? Kokuo thought for a while, I haven't seen it for a long time. But tailed beasts and humans were not enemies from the beginning. We have both lived in peace with humans and helped humans solve many disasters. But since humans betrayed us, Kokuo snorted from his nostrils, we hate betrayal, and we also started to hate humans and hate humans. Kurama has been sealed for too long. It is normal for him to hate and hate humans. Kushina pursed her lips, thoughtfully after listening to Five Tails' words. Grandma Mito also told her something similar. Probably something like, Nine Tails' power is too dangerous, but we need to use this power to protect our homeland. At that time, Kushina felt it was unfair. It's not only unfair to Nine Tails, it's also unfair to her. She doesn't want to be a Nine Tails Jinchuriki. After Nine Tails lived in her body, she yelled and screamed all day long. At first, she felt that this big fox was quite pitiful, but over time, this feeling was reflected in Nine Tails' yelling, faded. I I see. Ruahuo nodded, frowned and looked at Kushina, and then at Nine Tails behind Kushina. Kurama was not only sealed, but also suffered long-term abuse from this woman. That's why he became so violent and wanted to kill all humans. Ruahuo labeled Kushina an animal abuser. This may be something that no woman can accept. I didn't abuse the big fox. Kushina muttered dissatisfied, but every time it sees me, it yells and doesn't listen to what I say. After hearing it, it scolds me again, and the scolding is very unpleasant. What can I do? Quote. Ruahuo couldn't deal with Kushina's aggrieved look. He was also thinking about provoking Kushina and putting more pressure on him to see if he could get Kushina to mobilize the Nine Tails chakra. Anyway, he can fly, so he's not afraid of getting beaten. As for Five Tails, Kushina can only restrict Five Tails anyway, so she can't seal Five Tails into her body, right? But look at it now. Well, actually, Kurama's own personality has some problems. Ruahuo said. It is different from Kokuo. I think it seems to be easily stressed. The aunt who has a dog next door said that this kind of situation is caused by being locked up for too long, accumulating too much energy, and being too strong. Need to vent. Vent. Kushina was stunned for a moment. She wanted to say that she had actually been locked up in Konoha for a long time, but Ruahuo was likened to a dog, so. How to vent? Can you use Kurama's chakra? Shoot tailed beast jade or something? As soon as Wakahuo finished speaking, he was stunned for a moment. Launch the tailed beast jade. Tailed beast jade. Oh ho, it's okay, but I've never been allowed to use the third generation project. And are you sure you want to do this? Kushina frowned and said, the big fox doesn't like me very much when I use its power. It yells and screams for a long time every time. Ruahuo blinked and pointed behind him. I have a way to let Kurama vent at will, in all kinds of ways, and Grandpa third generation can't control it. Do you want to try it? Did I say something wrong? The scene returned to the foot of Platycodon Mountain. As soon as Kushina stood up from the ground, Ruahuo shouted. You are a vicious woman who abuses tailed beasts like this. What's the difference between you and those evil ninjas from Iwagakure? Orochimaru, who was not far away, was slightly startled. Why did the conversation between the two suddenly change the topic? Now we begin to discuss the issue of tailed beasts. Of course Orochimaru would not think that Kushina binding Kokuo with 2 chakra chains was abusing the tailed beast in Wakahui's eyes. This kid must have discovered the 9 tails in Kushina's body. So 9 tails also used the same method to seek help from Wakahuo-kun. Orochimaru narrowed his eyes, feeling something bad. And this time, as I said, I did not abuse the big fox. Kushina couldn't hold back her anger at all. Chakra surged all over her body, her red hair flew wildly, and she had already entered devil pepper mode. Kid, I have to educate you today. Nani? Ruahuo looked shocked. How come you have such a strong will of fire? You, who on earth are you? Humph, are you scared? Kushina geared up and introduced herself with a proud look on her face. Listen up. Sister, I am Uzumaki Kushina, the first female Hokage in Konoha in the future. Hokage, humph, don't be ridiculous. Hokage wouldn't see Konoha ninjas being bullied on the battlefield, while he hides at home and abuses the tailed beasts. Orochimaru was shocked. Don't you dare me to go to the battlefield and defeat the evil Iwagakure ninja. Uzumaki Kushina. Ruahuo issued a challenge. Orochimaru is shocked again. HMPH. You're quite brave, kid, then lead the way. I also agree with your will of fire. Kushina raised her hand and immediately fired a chain towards Five Tails' horns. Five Tails raised his head and swung Kushina above his head. As soon as Kushina landed, she saw Orochimaru rushing up to Five Tails before they got up. Wakao-kun, Kushina. Orochimaru smiled gracefully. If it's convenient, can you bring me one? Boom, boom. Five Tails runs wildly across the land. The speed was far more than 70 miles, but Ruahuo didn't feel so comfortable. Orochimaru is too fast. Last time he went to catch Minato, he didn't have time to catch up. I didn't expect to be so decisive this time. If Orochimaru follows me, I feel a little bit reluctant to let go. Ruahuo complained secretly. I glanced at Kushina and found that Kushina was even more nervous. I don't know if it's because it's the first time I've done this, but I'm sweating. But Orochimaru didn't say anything from beginning to end. Just stood there, smiling and saying nothing. It feels like a heartless smile machine. Then don't worry, just take it one step at a time. Single quote. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. Iwagakure came over, and Kumogakure also launched a sneak attack. The situation is already very serious for Konoha. Although Konoha will definitely be able to hold on in the end, it is foreseeable that Konoha's losses will not be low. A situation like this is the best time to gain military exploits. They all kill enemies, and they all cause damage with one shot of Tailed Beast Jade. But it means different things in different scenarios. When he ran away from Iwagakure before, that was the icing on the cake at best. No matter how much he bullied Iwagakure, the higher-ups would only notice the Kokuo he brought back. But now the situation is very different. The front line was breached and there were faint signs of collapse. He and Five Tails fell from the sky, defeated Iwagakure and defeated the Four Tails Jinchuriki, and also saved the Konoha ninjas on the front line. This kind of military exploits can only be effective if you practice them. And if Huo doesn't plan to do it by himself, it's best to bring all Uchiha with him. The first genius of Five Tails and Uchiha followed Nine Tails Jinchuriki to go to the front line privately. Single quote. Third generation currently has no extra ninjas to mobilize. Ruahuo thought secretly. There is no one in Konoha now, and the third generation project must either go up on its own, or it can only unblock Uchiha. If Fugaku can't even seize this opportunity, then he can go and accompany Danzo. Danzo is definitely not dead, only the title and position of Elder Danzo is dead. If others are unclear, how can he be unclear? Third generation Mi and Danzo used retreat to advance, and the roots were completely integrated into the darkness. They also slapped Fugaku with their hands. Not to mention winning, at least they didn't suffer a loss. If Fugaku really didn't have this ability, he would just fake his death and escape into the darkness with Danzo. Uchiha also needs its own roots. I just don't know if the system can admit it. Ruahuo smacked his lips and thought. The system's A-level family mission is to join the Roots Anbu, which is said to penetrate into Konoha. Rooting is out of the question right now, but Anbu. It seemed like he was almost shut out. After all, he behaves so cheerfully and doesn't seem to meet the conditions for joining Anbu. It would be great if this mission could be changed to join the security department. Single quote. Ruahuo thought secretly, but after thinking about it, he knew it was impossible. There is Mangekyo with a guaranteed A-level reward. He was originally Uchiha's ninja. After completing the first two tasks, he basically locked in the title of Uchiha's #1 genius. If you want to enter the Konoha security department, it's just a matter of looks. It's strange that the system can give you this task. What? Kushina took Ruahuo to the front line. Nonsense. After a day of exhaustion from third generation, he lost control of his emotions again and almost smashed the big pipe that his wife had given him as a 30th birthday gift. At present, Konoha's defense is already empty, and these two strategic weapons have left the village privately. What if something happens? What if the village is taken advantage of? Orochimaru, haven't you been following Ruahuo? How could you let him do such a thing? Third generation looked at the shadow clone that Orochimaru rushed back. Orochimaru is still very stable in his work. This time, Fanfan kept up with Ruahuo and was not left behind. He used Shadow Clone to report the situation, which also eliminated the possibility of the teacher making another mistake. The situation may be a bit complicated at that time, teacher. Orochimaru's Shadow Clone also has the same elegance and calmness as its main body, and calmly explained. The kid and Kushina had a fierce battle at first because of Minato. As for the scale of the battle, Orochimaru paused. He didn't lie, he just left room for the teacher's imagination. Third generation followed Orochimaru's words and thought about it. As expected, he was stunned for a moment and asked, "What then?" Then they recognized each other's will of fire, but there was another conflict about becoming a Hokage. Finally, Ruahuo proposed that becoming a Hokage is to protect everyone, including the ninjas on the front line. Kushina fully agreed with this, so. Quote. I don't know which of Orochimaru's words touched me. The third generation project was silent. After a long moment, he looked up at Orochimaru, so this is the reason why you didn't stop them. Orochimaru smiled slightly. This is the reason why I went with you, teacher. Didn't you do the same thing when we were 3 children? Third generation looked stunned. Killer. Although I don't know what Orochimaru was talking about specifically, third generation has done its best to train its 3 disciples. When Orochimaru said this, third generation immediately thought of his younger self. But soon he realized something was wrong. When I was young, I had enough strength to protect my disciples. But now Orochimaru, the 2 people he wants to protect. Someone is coming. Third generation is about to send people for reinforcements now. But seeing the Anbu appearing in front of them, third generation suddenly thought that the ninjas still staying in Konoha seemed. At this time, dong dong, third generation Sama. A steady voice sounded from outside the door. It was Fugaku, who had just left the Hokage building and returned. Fugaku. Third generation recognized Fugaku's voice immediately. Because of the attacks by Iwagakure and Kumogakure, the issue of the ownership of Five Tails came to an end for the time being, and the subsequent emergency battle meeting was not in the same order as the powers of the Konoha Security Department, so Fugaku left first. Now it suddenly comes back. It's the leader of the Fugaku clan whom I asked to inform, teacher. Orochimaru's clone answers questions for the third generation. The third generation frowned slightly and looked at Orochimaru. He asked Orochimaru with his eyes why he acted rashly this time. In this regard, Orochimaru still smiled calmly. Konoha needs someone to take charge. You can't go to the battlefield in person, teacher. As Five Tails sprinted tirelessly, the fire that could only be seen in Konoha gradually came into full view. When they came to a mountain peak with a better view, Ruahuo discovered that the battlefield in the distance was different from what he had imagined. The fire is not in one place, nor in 2 places. After the Iwagakure ninjas broke through, they immediately spread out, crossing horizontally, directly igniting every forest in their path. Dozens of fire sites are burning with raging flames. Once the connection is completed, the fire will span dozens of kilometers, which is comparable to 10 Uchiha Madaras releasing powerful fire at the same time. It's not like Ruahuo has never set fire to mountains. But that was the Chunin test, venting his anger towards the third generation, which was also a single ninjutsu. Compared with the sea of fire in front of me, it was on a pediatric level. This is the disadvantage of too high a vegetation rate. The Iwagakure ninja probably used earth style to change the terrain, fill in the rivers, or bury them underground. Orochimaru concluded, they want to use this fire to block the return of Konoha ninjas, so that they can march all the way into the heart of the land of fire. As he said that, Orochimaru took out another map from his ninja bag, spread it out, and laid it flat on Five Tails' head. Our current location is here, about 70 kilometers away from the nearest fire scene. Orochimaru pointed to the smaller fire scene. The flames were not big, but there were many trees. It was obviously just ignited. If nothing else, there will be a group of marching Iwagakure ninjas there. Ruahuo looked at the fire filling the sky in front of him, and looked out again. The thick smoke obscured his sight, making it difficult to see the situation in the distance. His biggest target on this trip, the 4 Jinchuriki Old Z, should be behind this black smoke. So, do we need to put out the fire first? Kushina frowned. If you let this fire continue to burn, it might not be good. Orochimaru did not respond, but looked at Ruahuo. Ruahuo shook his head. Rather than extinguishing the fire, I think it would be better to extinguish the Iwagakure ninja who set the fire. Hearing this answer, Orochimaru's smile became stronger. That's a good idea, Wakaho-kun. Orochimaru pointed to the distance again, where another group of obviously man-made fire had just appeared. But the enemy's tactics may cause their positions to be somewhat scattered. Does Lord Ruahuo plan to find them one by one? This is obviously an immersive war lesson. Orochimaru is guiding Ruahuo's thinking, hoping that Ruahuo will find the most correct way. But teacher, shouldn't they be the ones who come to me? Wakahuo spread his hands and said matter-of-factly, isn't this fire they set just to buy time to get closer to Konoha and capture Kokuo back? Saying that, ignoring Orochimaru's approving gaze, Ruahuo patted Kokuo's horns. Kokuo, give me a big one. Poof. Kokuo understood the idea, sprayed steam from his nostrils, opened his mouth, the black and purple yin chakra and the blue yang chakra gathered together, and kept compressing. A black-tailed beast jade quickly condensed. Ruahuo's command is big. So 5 tails Muakoku prepared for 30 seconds. This is a super large-tailed beast jade with a diameter of more than 10 meters. A little bit to the left, a little to the left, a little bit down, right. Ruahuo and Kokuo's thoughts connected, and the 3 Magatama determined the final direction. Ruahuo stamped his feet violently. Let go. Call. The tailed beast jade was launched fiercely, and a vacuum zone was created all the way in the air, and it crashed steadily into a sea of fire, followed by a thunderous bombing sound. Boom. The dark night seemed to be shattered by the sound of bombing. The flames of the explosion even once covered the sea of fire, and the airwaves set off also extinguished the fire in a large area. The power of the explosion was comparable to the violent wind set off by dozens of A-level wind escapers at the same time. This firefighting efficiency is so good. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows and aimed in another direction. Kokuo, is it possible to hit the tailed beast jade from this distance? Ruahuo gave a thumbs up, blinked his left and right eyes wildly to measure the distance, and felt that it was more than 100 kilometers. Of course, but it will take a while. 5 tails answered in the affirmative and began to condense the tailed beast jade. Ruahuo wasn't worried that the tailed beast jade wouldn't be able to hit it that far. After third Raikage died in the battle, 4th generation I asked Killer Bee to stay in Yunlei Gorge from now on. If anyone dares to attack, he will directly launch the long-range tailed beast jade. This advanced, tactical concept was extended all the way, and finally Kumogakur actually developed a super chakra cannon that can even crush the moon. It's a bit outrageous, but the idea is right. Ruahuo glanced at Orochimaru and didn't know if he was interested in developing in this direction. Although the tailed beast claims that its strength is not judged by the number of tails. Wakahuo didn't know how long it would take for 8 tails to launch the long-range tailed beast. Anyway, 5 tails Kokuo only held it in for 30 seconds this time, and then fired a tailed beast jade into the distance. It was a forest completely covered by a sea of fire, and Ruahuo was not worried about the presence of his own ninjas. Although they don't care much, according to Ruahuo's plan, after tonight, these ninjas will be responsible for being grateful to him. Boom! Another loud noise tore through the night sky. But Ruahuo didn't appreciate the power of the tailed beast jade this time. Standing high and seeing far, even though he didn't have Byakugan's sight range, Ruahuo could already see the Iwagakure ninjas gathering from all directions from a distance. They finally found out, Mr. Ruahuo. Orochimaru smiled slowly. Not only them, your tribe should also be able to discover us. Ah, Ruahuo was stunned for a moment. You heard that right. Orochimaru patted Wakahui on the shoulder. I convinced the teacher and asked Chief Fugaku to lead the security department to dispatch urgently to support our operation. If Iwagakure can be repelled tonight, then the Uchiha clan will have saved the entire Konoha, Wakaho-kun. Quote. Ruahuo blinked, feeling a little surprised. What Orochimaru said was not an exaggeration at all. Although with Konoha's overall strength, it is not difficult to save this battle, it will definitely not be easy, and it will cost a lot. This desperate move by the Iwagakure ninja can be called a crazy operation, and it is not something that can be undone. But what Ruahuo never expected was, Orochimaru actually took the initiative to convince the 3rd generation project to let Uchiha participate in the war. This operation is a bit of a timely help. Ruowa has been a little worried that Fugaku didn't dare to go to the Hokage building to volunteer. After all, this guy was only thinking about avoiding suspicion on Nine Tails night. What do you mean the Uchiha clan saved Konoha? Kushina next to her was unhappy and muttered dissatisfiedly, I'm obviously here too. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. It seems that Little Pepper is very willing to challenge. Don't worry, I have another great use for your chakra. Roar, accompanied by a clear and loud roar, under the gaze of all the Iwagakure ninjas who crossed into the land of fire. 5 tails jumped down from the mountain. With its huge body and strong body, it launched a charge towards the sea of fire in the distance. Although it is a good choice to stand on the top of the mountain and wait for Iwagakure to attack on his own. Several tailed beast jade shots are fired in short and rapid bursts, and the 5-kill notification sound is numb. But Iwagakure is definitely not a fool, and he has to give Fugaku and the others a chance to perform, right? Ruahuo had no intention of taking all the credit. What he wants is much bigger than this. Not long after Shisui entered the battlefield, he evolved into Instant Shisui. He is Shisui's eldest brother after all. This kind of treatment allows the enemy to choose to retreat when they meet, and can voluntarily give up the mission. After all, you have to fight for it, right? Tonight is a great opportunity. Ruahuo didn't leave Kushina idle either. Puff. Shadow clone number 1 appeared and walked up to Kushina. Sister Kushina, can you call me Kurama? I'll borrow some chakra from it. Ah, Kushina was stunned for a moment. This was the first time she heard such a request. The same goes for Orochimaru, this tailed beast chakra. Can I still borrow it? Why do you feel that Ruahuo and Nine Tails have a good relationship? Orochimaru couldn't help but think about the brief encounter between the two. Although he didn't know what happened specifically, it was obviously richer than what he saw. I'll ask it, please wait. Maybe because it felt quite fresh, Kushina didn't refuse, and her mind came to the sealed space. She looked at Nine Tails fixed on the ground, and remembered Ruahuo's words about abusing tailed beasts, and unbearable flashed in her eyes. Raising her hand, Kushina slightly lifted the seal around Nine Tails' neck. Nine Tails immediately opened his bell-like eyes and stared at Kushina. First of all, Big Fox, it's the little guy Ruahuo who wants to borrow some chakra from you, so don't yell. If you understand, just blink. Although Kushina can also directly mobilize part of Nine Tails' chakra, Ruahuo's words have reminded her. Tailed beasts are not evil, and their hostility towards humans also comes from betrayal. If you want to be recognized by tailed beasts, you must at least have enough respect. At least Kushina is quite envious of the way Ruakao gets along with Five Tails Kokuo. Nine Tails still stared at Kushina, insisting not to blink. I won't listen to anything from you, Ruahuo, why does this name sound like Indra? Why hasn't Indra destroyed the seal yet? Is it because you haven't regained your strength yet? So you need to use my power to break the seal? Yes, that must be the case. This stupid woman was indeed deceived by Indra. No, deceiving people does not seem to be Indra's character. What exactly is the situation? Thinking like this, Nine Tails blinked unconsciously. Kushina suddenly smiled excitedly. This is the first time she has effectively communicated with this big fox. Raising his hand, the torii gates disappeared. Nine Tails immediately regained his freedom. He instinctively wanted to yell to vent his anger, but when he thought that Indra was still waiting, he held back. Let's talk first, woman, my power is lent to Indra, not to you. Nine Tails stretched out its claws and touched the prison that sealed it. I know. Kushina, who was still in a state of excitement, immediately passed the chakras, exit approval, and said, let's go now, Big Fox. Five Tails on the head. Ode. A blood-red chakra coat appeared all over Kushina's body, and she entered Three Tails mode directly. It agreed, but only gave so much. Kushina opened her eyes, and her pupils had turned into the same vertical pupils as Nine Tails. Ruahuo blinked blankly. Three Tails, is this called only giving so much? Is this chakra? Every tail is clearly a sincere ambition of Nine Tails. Well, for Kushina, these chakra don't seem to be much. Thank you, sister. Please also thank Kurama for me. Ruahuo's shadow clone number 1 obediently extended his hand. Kushina held it gently, and in the next second, the majestic chakra was poured directly into Shadow Clone. Shadow Clone immediately frowned. Even if it has 300% damage immunity, it can only withstand the power of one tail at most. After the first docking, chakra obviously has not yet reached the forced compatibility that Naruto had at the end of the Ninja War. Can your Shadow Clone hold up? Kushina frowned. I can't hold it on, but this is enough. Shadow Clone number 1 let go of his hand and turned to look at the main body. Now, the chakra amount of Shadow Clone number 1 is even higher than that of the main body. And also enjoys 300% damage immunity. Then I'll leave first. The distance of hundreds of kilometers has been spanned by Five Tails. At this time, Five Tails has rushed into the Sea of Fire, but this temperature is not difficult for Five Tails to bear. Moreover, Five Tails attacks very quickly, extinguishing a large number of flames wherever it goes. Shadow Clone 1 jumped directly from 5 tails, summoned a fire dragon in midair, and finally landed firmly. Does Lord Ruahuo plan to borrow these raging fires? Orochimaru saw Wakaki's intention. Wakahui can borrow the power of fire just like a water-style ninja borrows the power of water, regardless of whether it is the flame caused by the fire style. Well, eliminating the people who cause the fire and extinguishing the fire can always be done together. Fire is also a resource. It would be too wasteful to just burn the forest. Ruahuo said. The 1-minute cooling time was over, and he called out Shadow Clone number 2 again. Shadow Clone 2 continues to collect 9 tails ambitions from Kushina, and then jumps in another field of fire. By the way, Xiao Ruahuo. Kushina suddenly remembered something. Why does that big fox call you Indra? Kushina had wanted to ask for a long time. Do tailed beasts also like to call humans weird names? It's not a weird title. Ruahuo responded calmly. Only those with a pure will of fire can have this title. If you don't believe me, when we go to find Four Tails Jinchuriki later, Four Tails will also call me that. Saying that, Wakahuo looked at Orochimaru again. Teacher, as one of the future heirs of the Root organization, can I have my own code name? Of course. Orochimaru smiled and nodded. Indra is a good name. Do you want to use this title, Lord Ruahuo? That's not true, only the tailed beasts can call me that. Ruahuo waved his hand. Then what codename do you want to give yourself, Lord Wakaho? Orochimaru asked. Ruahuo frowned. He originally wanted to use Konoha Kwanhi, but recently he felt that Konoha Zunlong was not bad, and it seemed a bit wasteful to use a code name to describe appearance. Ruahuo still wanted a more prestigious code name. So Ruahuo Kukud said, Teacher, shouldn't the enemy give me a code name? Five Tails Kokuo rushed into the fire scene with absolute speed, and the Iwagakure ninjas didn't even have time to complete the encirclement. Call out. Boom. A blazing flare was launched into the sky. Iwagakure's mountain fire tactics can cut off Konoha's return reinforcements, and can also interfere with Konoha's intelligence transmission and order transmission. But this Iwagakure ninja who went deep into the land of fire obviously had the same problem. And their solution is simple and crude. This flare is the color of Five Tails. Return support. We cannot allow Five Tails to join up with the Konoha ninjas on the front line. This is our great opportunity to recapture it and defeat Konoha's defenses in one fell swoop. Konoha is at the end of its rope. Stop going deep and return with full speed. Stop advancing. Arrange detonating symbols and traps as soon as possible. We need to intercept Konoha's reinforcements now. The Iwagakure troops are not all causing destruction. The 2,000-man Iwagakure troops were divided into several brigades when they launched a breakout. After going deep into the fire country, contact will be temporarily lost, so each brigade has its own highest priority tasks, including recapturing Five Tails, creating chaos, blocking Konoha ninjas, etc. This signal flare is the signal to activate the highest priority task. But just when the Iwagakure ninjas turned around and prepared to fight back to the front line along the gap in the sea of fire. The blazing flames on the fire field began to stir uneasily, as if they had their own consciousness. Under the gaze of all Iwagakure, they actually began to gather together on their own, and forcibly condensed into a pillar of fire reaching the sky. This fire pillar directly extracted most of the flames from the fire scene. The fire that was still burning in the forest instantly had only a few sparks left. Although the temperature was still there, the flames immediately rekindled, but the entire fire scene still a lot darker. This is a brand new way to put out fires. Shadow Clone number 1 raised his eyebrows, then pulled his hands away violently, chakra outputting wildly again. Fire style the will of the god of fire. Under the watchful eyes of all Iwagakure. This sky-reaching pillar of fire actually spread out, directly, like a scroll, with the pillar of flames as the axis and the flames as the scroll, converging into a flaming city wall in front of them. This is not over yet. A huge flaming dragon with orange fire light rose into the sky, hovering in midair, and actually condensed into the symbol of a flaming fan. That's Uchiha. The Iwagakure ninjas who were blocked by the flaming wall all looked in shock. That was the flaming emblem of the Uchiha clan. Is this fire style the art of the Uchiha clan? Did the Uchiha clan join the war? Uchiha. That is the oldest clan in the ninja world. My son, the teacher has heard about their glory from the ancestors. They are a very powerful fire clan. In the Chunin examination, Wakahara used the flaming dragon that could fly into the air to briefly awaken the terrible memories of being ruled by Uchiha sleeping deep in the memory of Konoha ninjas. Memories are not inherited, but fears are. Just like a newly weaned mouse, even if it has never met a cat in its life, it will instinctively feel fear. During the war era, the ninjas who were once ruled by the Uchiha clan were not the ninjas of Konoha. Retreat. Stay away from this technique. Quick. The blocked Iwagakure ninjas did not dare to stay, and they all turned around with loud shouts. This was not a technique they could force their way through. I've been waiting for you here for so long, so don't just talk about Uchiha. In the air, Shadow Clone 1, who was riding a fire dragon, muttered softly. Uchiha is still a few hours away from here. Shall we play for a while first? Shadow Clone forms a seal again. Fire-style saturation fire dragon bomb. Giant flaming dragons emerged from this picture of fire, and then launched an indiscriminate bombardment at the Iwagakure ninjas below. The flames of this sea of fire are not made by chakra. Although Ruahuo can extract flames like water style, it also requires a large amount of chakra. Nine Tails chakra makes up for this. Shadow Clone also has 3 Magatama, but this is a super large scale technique after all. If you want to activate it a second time, chakra control will be a problem. Therefore, these fire dragons emerging from the scroll of fire will be particularly manic. Boom! The sound of bombing sounded one after another. Fire dragons emerged from the dragon's nest, randomly selected an unlucky person to charge, and then exploded in the crowd. Screams kept coming and going. However, the Iwagakure ninjas did not dare to stop, and they ran for their lives in a hurry as if they were avoiding a natural disaster and tsunami. Even if Iwagakure, who had the consciousness of sacrifice, stayed behind to try to resist for a moment, they were still trying to resist the enemy, and they could not buy much time at all. That is, the Uchiha who were on their way finally saw the wall of flames in the distance and the flaming fans belonging to Uchiha in the sky. Lord Patriarch, that is the technique of that boy Ruahuo. It seems that Xiao Ruahui has already encountered the Iwagakure ninjas. After a brief shock, Fugaku decisively issued an order, everyone. Speed up and move forward. The 1st Brigade will follow me first and support Uchiha Wakahui as quickly as possible. We must bring him back safely. We Uchiha don't have the bad habit of letting children stand in front of us. The Uchiha boy band sprinted faster. Fugaku selected the elite backbone to follow him, distanced himself from other Uchiha, and rushed to the battlefield at full speed. Seeing Ruahuo making such a big noise, Fugaku's eyes were filled with surprise and excitement, but also some worry. Although with the help of 5 Tails, Orochimaru and 9 Tails Jinchuriki, Fugaku is still a little worried. After all, they were the Iwagakure troops with more than 2,000 people. They came for 5 Tails, so they must have some way to restrict the tailed beasts. Don't let anything happen, little guy. You are Uchiha's future. Fugaku sprinted quickly, his eyes firm. But obviously, his worries are actually unnecessary. Hiss. Has this idea been used by no one? There is indeed an advantage in meeting the enemy first. Shadow Clone 2 looked at the Iwagakure ninja who was approaching from the other side and formed a seal silently. Ode. A fire dragon rose into the air first, and also hovered in the air with Uchiha's blazing clan emblem. This is very important. Ode. The Hokage in the fire field was extracted by Shadow Clone number 2, gathered under the fire dragon, and condensed into an oversized ball of flame. Feel the baptism of flames, evil Iwagakure. Shadow Clone number 2's vertical eyes turned cold, fire-style fire god's cry. In order to intercept Iwagakure, it can be regarded as buying time for Uchiha. Ruahuo left a total of 6 paths Shadow Clone. The enhanced version of Shadow Clone has a limit on the amount of chakra, and 9 Tails ambition solves this problem very well. The amount of chakra in 3 Tails mode is not as simple as adding 3 tails together. The 4 Tails, Naruto's skin has been peeled off all over his body, and he is equivalent to a little 9 Tails. Chakra with 3 tails is considered the limit of a certain conventional mode, but the amount of chakra is not small. Evenly divided among 6 paths Shadow Clone, only 1 tail was lost. Ruahuo himself also asked for some to build a tailed beast chat group, and returned the rest to Nine Tails, focusing on not wasting any. The Nine Tails chakra does not increase ninjutsu's power, but Wakaki still has 5 Tails boil-style chakra in his body, so he can use it easily. However, I got 9 Tails chakra, the buff of Little Fire God, plus 300% damage resistance. Ruahuo's shadow clone team is really no worse than the main body. And every time before enlarging a move, he never forgets to put the Uchiha clan's logo on it. This can effectively intercept the Iwagakure ninja, and at the same time ensure that attribution of battle credits will be retained to the maximum extent until Uchiha arrives. On Ruahuo's side, after running through the boil-style mode of 5 Tails, they finally broke through the blockade of the Sea of Fire and came to the front line, a rocky valley that looked very familiar. Kokuo and I seemed to have passed by here on our way back to Konoha for the first time. Ruahuo looked at the rocks on both sides and thought of the Iwagakure team who tried to seal 5 Tails with Earth style and the Sealing Squad. This is already the territory of the Kingdom of Earth, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru didn't take out a map this time. He was much more familiar with the battlefield environment than Ruahuo. Kokuo likes it here very much. There are no trees to block the run, so it feels much better. Ruahuo looked at Orochimaru and said seriously, "Teacher, if I want to own this place, what procedures do I need to go through?" Orochimaru was startled, and keywords such as negotiation, war, land ceding compensation, land expansion, and other keywords immediately emerged in his mind, and above these keywords was Ruahuo, will. This may be a complicated issue, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru smiled and said, "I think you can ask Iwagakure's 3rd Tsuchikage yourself. Of course, it's best to be with Hokage-sama. That's it." Ruahuo nodded thoughtfully, felt another gaze, turned around and found Kushina looking at him with a complicated expression. "What's wrong?" Ruahuo asked. "It's nothing." Kushina looked away and shook her head. "I just think your relationship with Kokuo seems to be very good." Ruahuo was thinking about how to find a comfortable home for 5 Tails, but the big fox currently only had a locked cage, which made Kushina feel a little guilty for no reason. Of course, Ruahuo noticed Kushina's mood, raised his eyebrows, looked into the distance again, and said, "Kokuo is my best partner. Kokuo and Kurama also have a good brother, 4 Tails, who is still controlled by the evil Iwagakure. I decided to help Kokuo rescue its good brother first. Sister Kushina, do you want to help?" If Huo offered an olive branch, with the guidance of 2 good brothers, Kurama might be able to recover sooner. Recover. Orochimaru next to him caught a strange word and asked curiously, 9 Tails. Kurama, are you sick? That's what you said, Master Orochimaru. Kushina was not in a good mood. The big fox has been locked up for too long and is easily stressed. Do tailed beasts also get stressed? Orochimaru looked at his student silently. The keywords headed by Wakahu's will appeared in my mind, and behind it seemed to be a dangerous thing. Cure 9 Tails, liberate 9 Tails. Here comes the problem. Therefore, as this child's teacher, should I help my student fulfill his wish, or should he stop this dangerous idea? So hard to choose. Orochimaru showed a smile that was beyond elegance, very small in proportion, but very pure. I have decided, Xiao Ruahuo. Kushina waved her fist and said firmly, "It's my responsibility that the big fox will become like this. I will help you rescue the big fox's good brother." "Well," Ruahuo encouraged, "we will definitely make Kurama recover as soon as possible." 9 Tails, as the most powerful partner of the Uchiha clan. Ruahuo definitely didn't want him to live outside and kept him locked up with Kushina. In order for Kushina to understand his mood, it is best to give some support. Therefore, Ruahuo also created a plan tailored for Kushina. First understand the tailed beast's mood, right pointing arrow, then reconcile with 9 Tails, right pointing arrow, actively want 9 Tails to regain freedom, right pointing arrow, give up the identity of Jinchuriki, right pointing arrow, 9 Tails will be free, square root. Short name, Tailed Beast Peaceful Breakup Plan. This plan is very safe. It can be implemented step by step in the 5-year development plan. There is no need to worry that Konoha will explode, which will affect growth and cause the Uchiha clan to lose points in their strength rating. You must know that if you are not sure of victory and forcefully fight Konoha, even if you win, Uchiha's strength will be completely lost. This plan is safe throughout and extremely low cost. There is only one small problem that needs to be solved, about Jinchuriki's life support after being separated from the tailed beast. This is not difficult. If you just want to save your life, you can consider arranging a small reincarnation theater to reassure Kushina. Or you can use the corpse seal to leave a life-saving amount. This process is best carried out by Danzo, who has been resurrected from the dead, but Kaharu and Mito Manabu can also be transferred to the dormitory. Of course, if the third generation project is willing to support, he will definitely welcome it. Anyway, under Genjutsu, Konoha's elders can become spokesmen for the will of fire. The soon-to-be established Uchiha roots is dedicated to this. As for what he might have to face after the plan succeeds, he will face a rebellion from Konoha. Well, let's flip it. Resist and resist more, otherwise this copy will be meaningless. So, kids. Our goal now is officially to find the Four Tails Jinchuriki in Iwagakure and rescue the Four Tails, right? Orochimaru asked, looking into the distance with his new version of his smile, 95% graceful and 5% evil. There were densely packed Iwagakure ninjas. Five Tails was too big to hide its whereabouts. It rushed all the way and even rushed into the Earth Kingdom. Iwagakure is already ready to recover Five Tails. There are so many people. Kushina muttered, formed a seal with her hands and closed her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she pointed in one direction. Xiao Ruahuo, there, see that? Anyway, it's there. There were too many people, and Kushina couldn't tell where to go. Kokuo. Ruahuo patted Five Tails' horns. Aim at that area, fire 3 rapid rounds, prepare to fire. Kokuo. Why are tailed beasts regarded as strategic weapons by major villages? Huge body and chakra power, devastating destructive power. The power of this shot is comparable to that of an S-rank ninjutsu, but in the words of Five Tails, it is like a sneeze. This is the best expression. Whoosh whoosh. The small-tailed beast Jade hit the Iwagakure troops one after another, each one containing unparalleled power. But why are tailed beasts only used as strategic weapons by major villages? You know, in other small worlds, with a setting like tailed beasts, a kami would be enough. Those are the two reasons. One is because there are not many tailed beasts, there are 9 tailed beasts, and the 5 ninja villages can even be rich enough to have a 7 tails outside. Furthermore, the tailed beast is not invincible and has a single attack method. If you find a suitable method, you can control and seal the tailed beast. It can even directly extract the power of tailed beasts, which is where Jinchuriki comes from. In most cases, Jinchuriki, who transformed into a half-tailed beast, can actually utilize the power of the tailed beast more perfectly. For example, Z is now entering the two-tail mode. The literal translation of this guy is Lao Z, but the name is too hard to pronounce, so I will just call him Z in the future. Get out of the way. Four Tails Jinchuriki Purple's control over the power of the tailed beasts is obviously better than Han's. She directly borrows chakra and enters the Two Tails chakra mode while quickly forming seals with both hands. Lava style. Burning river rock technique. Shots of magma balls were ejected from the purple mouth, and when they hit the small-tailed beast Jade in the air, their power was not inferior at all. This is certainly the reason why Five Tails does not condense chakra very much. But it is also proof of Z's own strength. Z is not a perfect Jinchuriki, but she has the blood inheritance limit of lava style. With the blessing of Four Tails, who also has lava style chakra, she can be regarded as a perfect Jinchuriki. Boom. Small-tailed beast Jade and magma balls exploded in the air, and hot magma splashed everywhere. With Z's previous warning, the Yangakure below carefully avoided and quickly approached Five Tails. It's time to go, Lord Ruahuo. Orochimaru immediately judged the situation. The number of ninjas in Iwagakure was beyond imagination, and they were well prepared. There were many ninjas carrying large scrolls. Obviously Iwagakure's sealing squad is also the main force in this encirclement. Of course, even without the sealing class, Orochimaru didn't think that Five Tails and Kushina alone could stop so many Iwagakure ninjas. If that were the case, Iwagakure, who previously had Four Tails and Five Tails Jinchuriki, would have already reached Konoha. Are you going to run away? Wakahara frowned, but Uchiha would never choose to retreat, and Kokuo's friends are right there, being drained of strength by that evil ninja. Orochimaru's concern is correct, or normal. But Ruahuo didn't think they had any chance. Five Tails has such strong mobility and can run around on four legs. It feels like it won't take long to circle the ninja world. With another Kushina here, isn't it the Iwagakure ninja who should escape? Besides, he also wants to try the ninjutsu he just got. Ninjutsu type. A-level lava style, burning river rock jutsu. When the little Vulcan effect is triggered, you can learn all escape techniques, but all escape techniques activated will be replaced by flames. Successfully learned ninjutsu. Lava style, the art of burning rivers and rocks. Theoretically, any learning of the blood succession limit must at least bring the conditions of refining 2 chakra properties, and chakra fusion, and the learning difficulty must be at least S level or above. But the system obviously has its own algorithm. Compared with the previous, boil style, the escape technique learned this time was completely obtained from Laozi's own blood-stained ninjutsu, rather than a gift from chakra. Therefore, the attribute fusion prompt was not triggered. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. To trigger attribute fusion, the tailed beast chakra must be activated. The blood stain escape technique that can be learned normally may not be any less powerful. Of course, Wakahuo-kun. Uchiha never runs away, but when faced with a powerful enemy, he can choose tactics to avoid. Orochimaru did not fully use the Waka fire way of thinking this time, which is not necessary in this case. It's like keeping a distance to release fire style during a battle to prevent yourself from accidentally hurting yourself. It's always right to keep a certain distance. And Konoha's defense line is not too far away from here. Avoiding it in front of our defense line, with the assistance of Konoha ninjas, can at least make Kokuo-sama more relaxed, right? Orochimaru smiled and said, Wakao-kun doesn't want to see Lord Kokuo get injured in the siege, right? Ruahuo hesitated for a moment. Tactical evasion. Yes, Orochimaru nodded. This is a tactic that requires enough courage and wisdom too. I understand, teacher. Ruahuo's eyes lit up. Not good. Orochimaru was shocked. He was so familiar with Ruahuo's expression. Really, Kokuo, get ready and sprint in that direction with all your strength. PFF'd. Five Tails blows steam from its nostrils, the boil-style chakra reaches boiling point, and its full-speed running mode again. Orochimaru suddenly looked in the direction Wakahui was pointing, and his heartbeat accelerated again. Good news. If Huo seems to have listened, it is indeed a direction with fewer Iwagakure ninjas. Bad news. That's still the direction of Iwagakure village. If we really attack from that place, it won't be a breakout. For Iwagakure, it will be Five Tails, going home, on its own. Wakao-kun. Orochimaru's smile became a little stiff. The teacher suggested. Ruahuo shouted. The teacher's suggestion is correct. When facing a powerful enemy, we must keep our distance. But over there is the direction of Iwagakure. If Huo-kun, Konoha is. Then keep distance in the direction of Iwagakure. Kokuo, charge. Boom. After receiving the order, Five Tails Kokuo ejected and rushed directly towards the direction of Iwagakure. At this moment, Orochimaru instinctively thought, if Huo just wanted to find a home for Five Tails in the Earth Kingdom, does this child really intend to talk to Onoki? But soon, Orochimaru realized that this matter was not that simple. Prepare to turn left ahead, Kokuo. Ruahuo shouted loudly, clapped his hands violently at the same time, and rushed to the horn on Kokuo's right. Change. Poof. Kokuo leaned to the left, braked forcefully with all four legs, and suddenly made a drifting turn. And Wakahui's ninjutsu is officially completed. Fire style. Burning river rock jutsu. It turns out, Jinchuriki, who can mobilize the power of tailed beasts, can indeed better utilize the power of tailed beasts up to a certain limit. Perfection. Isn't the power of Jinchuriki just because Jinchuriki can fully mobilize the power of tailed beasts? But is this cooperative model really the optimal solution? Ruahuo doesn't think so anyway. At least not all tailed beasts are suitable for this cooperative mode, such as Five Tails. In Ruahuo's opinion, the cooperation mode with Five Tails must be the cavalry mode. And it's best to have Four Tails riding Five Tails and put on a Susanoo suit to form a true Susanoo suit knight. And there are 9 tails. But now that he doesn't have Mangekyo and 4 tails, he can only make a horse archer for fun first. Rumble. A shot of flaming water balls hit the Iwagakure ninja, who was tactically evaded by 5 tails. After hitting the ground, it did not have an impact like Z's lava style. It was more like a shot filled with liquid flames. The water ball exploded. This technique is not bad. Single quote. Wakaka made his comment the moment he activated ninjutsu. Under the buff of Little Fire God, all escape techniques other than fire style will be activated. Although the form will be replaced by flames, certain characteristics will be retained. Such as earth style. Although it cannot mobilize the earth to change the terrain and can only change its form with its own chakra, it can also use ninjutsu in the same form and retain the chakra concentration, similar to the earth style. For example, the most basic earth style wall. Wakahuo's fire style BB is like an earth style ninja using earth style wall in the air. It cannot borrow land, but it can use its own chakra to change its properties and spray it out of its mouth, and then use it forcefully like the fire style version. However, the fire style version of the earth flow wall can only last for a short period of time. After all, it is composed of flames and will dissipate quickly. Although it can barely be regarded as having a certain degree of defense, it is obviously not the same concept as lava style. The defensive effect is far inferior to the fire style version of water style water barrier. It allows the flames to flow and the defense power is not bad. This has nothing to do with ninjutsu level, it is due to the nature of ninjutsu before mutation. And lava style is a combination of earth style and fire style. It has certain fire properties, and then the earth properties are changed. Compared with the regular earth style, the chakra concentration is lower again, but the temperature can be increased. This leads to the lava style version of fire style, which can keep the flame in an infinitely close to liquid state. Similar to a candle fire, the flame is a chemical reaction. The higher the temperature, the shape will change. Otherwise, there are too many words. This is not Uchiha's style. Although lava style does not involve any water attributes, the effect of this lava style ninjutsu actually looks a bit like the flaming version of water style water bomb. I have to study lava style when I get back. If I can use this well, ninjutsu restraint will not exist here. Single quote. Ruahuo discovered this keenly. Last time, 3rd generation used a thunder and water dragon bomb to forcefully compete with his 4 dragon flame boil style blast edition for a long time. He has remembered this for a long time. Before getting wood style, which allows him to summon the super flame giant and allow ninjutsu's power to change quantitatively and qualitatively, there is obviously still a lot of room for improvement. I just don't know what the fire style will look like under ice escape. Will it be solid flames? Water and wind, crystal style. Tisk, it feels like wood style is more reliable. Single quote. Although the temperature of the solid flame will be relatively low, the physical damage will be high. Paired with Sage Jutsu, isn't this the nemesis of Otsutsuki? Thinking about it, I was still a little excited, so Ruahuo immediately formed a seal and continued to vent his chakra. With the supplement of 5 tails chakra and the little Vulcan buff, Ruahuo doesn't have to worry about consumption at all. 5 tails is responsible for tactical evasion, and he only needs to be responsible for tactical strikes. Fire style fire dragon bullet. A fire dragon appeared out of thin air, but did not follow 5 tails away. Instead, it stayed in the air and opened its bloody mouth. Chug tug tug tug. Liquid fire bombs were fired one after another in air-to-ground strike mode, launching a saturation bombing. This seems to be a ninjutsu, but it is actually a 4-in-1 composite ninjutsu. Fire, water, dragon bullet plus fire, earth dragon bullet plus burning river rock technique, and also adds boil-style chakra to increase the continuous lethality. Wakahu is an Uchiha. Although the amount of chakra is sufficient, the Uchiha family has always held themselves to the highest standards. The chakra calculation of every ninjutsu shot must be accurate and detailed. Fire style fire dragon bullet. The second air-to-ground fire dragon is ready. Fire style fire dragon bullet. Article 3. Article 4. 5 tails is responsible for running wildly, while Ruahuo keeps leaving fixed forts in the sky. The fire dragons seem to be bright lights hanging in the night sky, but they keep spreading fire into the night. After a few rounds of fire dragon bullets, it felt a bit like fighting zombies in CF biochemical mode. My legs. My legs. This fire is poisonous. Avoid those fire styles. Avoid those. Teacher. Earth style wall. Protect the ninjas of the ceiling team. Be careful. Aha. You must burp. Obviously. This is not a game, and the Iwagakure ninjas are not zombies, but enemies of flesh and blood. The screams kept coming one after another, and there was also a lack of courage and awareness to protect the companions to the death. These qualities are noble. Although the positions are different, if the fire is too far away, it cannot be heard. Of course, even if he could hear it, Ruohuo would certainly not be a little softer. This is war. It is a place to vent the violent genes in people. It may not necessarily be suitable for murderers and violent elements, but the Virgin Mary and the giant Buddha are definitely not suitable. Our Lady is more suitable to stay in the rear and serve as a medic. If the Buddha's body is not hard enough, it will be smashed in minutes. Roar. When Five Tails Kokuo drifted around the corner for the second time, and Wakahui's aerial turret happened to reach the 10th station, the first fire dragon bullet had already hit all the chakra and dissipated in the air. Four Tails Jinchuriki Purple finally took the risk and entered the half-tailed beast state. Although there is a certain risk of losing control and accidentally injuring one's own ninjas, if this continues, sooner or later even the accidental injury space will disappear. And regarding this, Ruohuo couldn't panic at all. Sister Kushina, he's here. Kushina's tone was a little flat. She was not an evil person, but she would not be soft on her enemies. In fact, Kushina is an out-and-out militant. Her home was destroyed during the war, and she was almost abducted by Kumogakure's ninjas after coming to Konoha. Kushina knows how to protect herself. And she also has her own mission today. Big Fox, after I've locked you up for so long, it's time to let you out for some air. Kushina clapped her hands and made a large hole in the 8-sign seal for the first time. She turned to look at Nine Tails and smiled slightly. Go play with your best friend, Kurama. Roar. This is a roar that has been suppressed for more than 40 years. The majestic chakra gushes out from the sealed space, and with full negative energy, Kushina actually enters the Four Tails mode directly. Four Tails, this is already the limit of Four Tails Jinchuriki Purple below. But just like this, Nine Tails is obviously not satisfied. Roar. The Nine Tails chakra on Kushina's body is more intense, and it feels like she will turn into the Five Tails form in minutes. The manic chakra spread, and even Five Tails lowered his head because of this. Ruohuo hugged Five Tails' horns tightly to prevent them from being blown away. Orochimaru, who had been standing like a gangster before, also lost his grace and pressed his hands and feet tightly on Five Tails' head. This full of negative energy. Ruohuo may now be able to understand how big of a shadow Dazu and Dabauto cast on Nine Tails. So if Minato and Kushina hadn't been pierced by a fingernail, and half of their souls had been taken away, how difficult would it have been for Naruto to reconcile with Nine Tails? Indra, let Kurama get off my head. Kokuo was angry. It seems that Nine Tails is currently focused on breaking through the seal and has no time to worry about the tailed beast space group. I'll try. Wakahara Magatama locked onto Kushina. To be precise, lock Kurama. Ruohuo is actually not sure. Although he now has the blessing of Indra's logo and greatly increased eye power, his genjutsu is still at the B level. This was related to the proficiency in using mental energy, which he hadn't had time to practice yet. Otherwise, if we had controlled Kushina before, we would not have declared failure just because of Nine Tails' complaints. But just when Ruohuo was about to bite the bullet and, shock, Nine Tails. Almost done. Big Fox, you're going to ruin my clothes. Kushina hit her head, and the manic chakra on her body instantly calmed down for the most part. Swish. Ruohuo also happened to activate Sharingan, and his consciousness forcibly came to the sealed space, and then he discovered a magical scene. Kushina's whole body was covered with bubble-like Nine Tails chakra, and the outline of Nine Tails could be seen clearly on her head. There's just a big piece missing on the face. It should have been taken by Kushina just now. And I don't know if this big guy looks familiar, or if he saw Indra coming in. The furious Nine Tails is really honest. Quote. Ruahuo hesitated for a moment, then said, well, Kokuo was hurt by your step, Kurama. It makes you lighten up. Swish. If the fire escapes. In reality, the changes in Kushina are also different. The previous violent aura still existed, but it had a different nature. It was no longer Ninetales who was angry, but Kushina. I'm letting you come out for some air, but don't ruin my clothes, Kurama. Otherwise, I will say it angrily. This is Kushina's voice. Humph. This was still Kushina's voice, but the tone was obviously changed. I know. Roar. This is the roar of Five Tails, you two, get out of here. Roar. This is the voice of Four Tails Jinchuriki Purple. Maintaining her last sanity, Four Tails Jinchuriki Purple aimed at the temporarily motionless Kokuo, opened her mouth, and chakra condensed crazily. But this move angered the three bosses at the same time. Boss A. Five Tails. Poof. Steam sprayed from the nostrils. Five Tails also opened its mouth, and the tailed beast Jade quickly condensed. Gangster B and Gangster C. Kushina and Ninetales. There was no communication, and I don't know who has the control of the body now. I saw Kushina with her hands on the ground. Yes, even if she entered the Four Tails chakra mode, she was still standing just now. Open your cherry mouth, chakra is also gathering crazily. Whoosh. Four Tails Jinchuriki Purple takes the lead in firing. Whizzing. Then he saw two-tailed beast Jade hitting him. Roar. This roar was not angry, but more anxious, expressing the mood of, everyone, please disperse. But the moment he transformed into a half-tailed beast, the surrounding Iwagakure had dispersed, and the one who really should run away was himself. Boom. Kushina and Ninetales tailed beast Jade arrived first. Four Tails Jinchuriki Murasaki had already dodged in time, but was still thrown away by the impact of the explosion. Boom. Five Tails tailed beast Jade still failed to hit Murasaki, who had already avoided it, but the impact of the explosion was closer to the Iwagakure ninjas. But this group of Iwagakure are here to seal Five Tails, and they are well trained. One by one, Iwagakure activated Earth-style ninjutsu almost at the same time. The earth walls were like dominoes blocking the tailed beast Tama, which at least allowed the tailed beast Tama to explode in advance. Boom. The power of this tailed beast Jade is visible to the naked eye, but its lethality may not be that ideal. However, in the next second, Kushina and Ninetales had already fallen from Five Tails. They did not eject directly, obviously taking care of Five Tails Kokuo's feelings. This also proves that Kushina still has the upper hand. As expected of Little Pepper. Single quote. Ruahuo silently nodded. Is she worthy of being Naruto's mother? When her life is in danger, she is the ultimate fierce person who can control Ninetales with just a raise of her hand. So Ninetales was slapped by a big dick just now. Not that much. Such a Tsunere. Ha, Kabuto seems to specialize in treating Tsunere monsters. Never mind. It wouldn't be a bad thing if Kushina could really become the perfect Jinchuriki soon. Single quote. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. Kushina is also a kind girl. She will definitely not bear to watch Ninetales stay in the sealed space. Even if the seal is lifted, I can watch the good brothers enjoying their freedom outside. Such a comparison. Kushina will definitely not bear it. At that time, we only need to popularize some research on root organizations for Kushina's science. For example, Elder Danzo masters a miraculous medical treatment called ninjutsu, called Jisei reincarnation. Or maybe the life-threatening third-generation project wants to fulfill Kushina's little wish with a small operation like sealing off the corpses. Sprinkle some water. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows and patted Kokuo's horns again. Come on Kokuo, let's continue our tactical evasion. The Iwagakure ninjas who participated in the capture of Five Tails were still lamenting the determination and decisiveness of the commander-in-chief, Lord Wangtu, an hour ago. Although Master Han was abducted by the abominable Konoha ninja in a surprise attack, under the command of Master Wangtu, Iwagakure immediately defeated Konoha's defenses through a surprise attack. The wildfire that almost spanned the entire border of the Land of Fire once reminded the Iwagakure ninjas of the scene when the Hokage of Konoha signed a surrender treaty with Lord Tsuchikage of the third generation. But the good times didn't last long. The mountain fire on the other side of the Land of Fire was still burning, but the flaming emblems of the Uchiha clan appeared in the sky above the fire. It seems that the mountain fire was not the destruction of the land of fire by the surprise attack force, but the grand debut ceremony of the Uchiha clan. Immediately afterwards, Five Tails' huge body rushed out of the sea of fire. Instead of supporting the ninjas on the front line of Konoha, they went straight to the territory of Earth Kingdom. Master Huang Tu once again showed his decisive decision-making power. While the Konoha ninjas were still stuck in the quagmire of the choice of holding on or retreating, the frontline troops shrank again and completed the encirclement with the surprise attack troops. As long as Five Tails can be recaptured and Konoha's defenses are defeated in one go, it will only be a matter of time before Konoha's Hokage surrenders to Iwagakure. But when the flaming dragons lit up the entire night sky, when the monster jumped down from the huge body of Five Tails, it beat Master Murasaki, who had almost completely unlocked the tailed beast's power. When that round of fire bombs covered the entire battlefield, Five Tails was still running tirelessly, but no Iwagakure ninja tried to intercept them. The Sealing Squad retreated to the valley where Five Tails had just appeared, and they reunited with the remaining surprise attack troops who had escaped from the Uchiha flame blockade. The two defeated armies met, and the despair of defeat spread. The most terrible thing is that the retreat directions of these two defeated armies are still conflicting. There are Konoha ninjas chasing behind, making good use of fire style. It is suspected that Konoha dropped Uchiha on the battlefield. In front is the demon who rides Five Tails and fills the night sky with fire dragons. Teacher, they seem to have lost the will to fight. Ruahuo crosses his chest with his hands and stands coolly on Five Tails' head, looking very much like the short-haired boy Madara Indra. Yes, Orochimaru nodded slightly and agreed, you made them feel the fragility of life. Life is indeed fragile. No matter how powerful a ninja is, he will die one day. Being weak will only speed up the arrival of this day. This is something Orochimaru understood from a very early age. That's not the case, teacher. Ruahuo shook his head gently. Life is not fragile, only will is fragile. They can't withstand my will of fire, so they feel fear. If Uchiha encounters this situation, then we will only use up our last chakra and strength to defeat the enemy and protect our glory. Instead of standing here, waiting to be broken like a stone. Orochimaru was slightly surprised. Wakaha's interpretation of life has a strong sense of Uchiha's will of fire. Orochimaru doesn't want to judge whether this interpretation is right or wrong. He has gradually become accustomed to weakening the concept of right and wrong. But it is undeniable that Ruahuo's will is absolutely fiery. He even made a seal. Ruahuo-kun, are you going to? Orochimaru has a slightly weird expression. Is he trying to kill everyone? I have to solve all this as soon as possible before they surrender, teacher. Ruahuo said seriously. I have many competitors, whether they are the Fugaku clan leader or the white-haired uncle, they all far surpass me in terms of mission resume. Killing enemies on the battlefield is also a way to accumulate mission resume. I want to have a high-quality resume that surpasses theirs in the shortest possible time. And I also need enough mission remuneration to provide a safe and comfortable living environment for my partners. Orochimaru took half a second to catch up with this escaping thought. Mission resume, mission remuneration. Also, this child's purpose seemed to be very simple from the beginning. Don't be impatient, Wakahuo-kun. Orochimaru patted Wakahuo's shoulder and stopped Wakahuo's brewing technique. Prisoners on the battlefield are worth much more than corpses. Ruahuo frowned. How much taller? There is no specific conclusion on this. Orochimaru smiled, but whether it is asking for a bounty from Iwagakure, or instigating rebellion, or interrogating intelligence, it must be worth more than each corpse. It is common sense that the value of captives far exceeds that of corpses. But common sense in Ruahuo's eyes is obviously different. But prisoners also need to consume supplies. If they instigate rebellion, they may fail, and the information obtained through torture may be lies. Ruahuo frowned and said, and the value of the corpse is not low. Grandpa Hokage said that wherever the leaves of Konoha are flying, the flames are endless, burning the enemies into ashes and nourishing the new branches. Ruahuo pointed to the mountain fire that was still burning in the distance. Our vegetation has been severely damaged, and now is the time when we need new branches. That fire was started by Iwagakure. It burned their bodies to ashes, which can be used to provide nutrients. This child finally took action against the will of fire of the ancestors. Burn the enemy to ashes and nourish the new branches. Haha. Orochimaru smiled slightly. You are right, Wakahuo-kun. Why does this world have to have right and wrong? If there must be wrong people, why can't it be the ancestors? They all provide nutrients for the new branches, why can't we use the corpses of enemies? But the teacher still wants to remind you, the bounty for captives is at least 5 times that of the corpse. Orochimaru held out 5 fingers. Take the young master. Ruahuo's eyes widened. 5 times. 5 times is still the lowest ratio, Wakao-kun. Orochimaru smiled gracefully. If there are high-value targets, this ratio will be even higher. High-value target. Ruahuo was thoughtful, then looked into the distance. The battle between Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and Four-Tails Jinchuriki has ended. Four-Tails Jinchuriki has lost consciousness and is lying on the ground motionless. Kushina and Nine-Tails stood still, motionless, looking into the distance in the dark night. If Huo didn't have white eyes, and there were no mountain fires in the distance, he wouldn't have that far of a sight in the night sky. But Ruahuo doesn't think Kushina and Nine-Tails are thinking about life. After all, Kushina controls Kagura's mind, and there is a high probability that she senses the enemy's approach. And from the perspective of Kushina looking up. Teacher, I have a question. Ruahuo formed a seal with his hands again, but it was a shadow clone seal. If I can capture Iwagakure's Tsuchikage, what is the minimum reward that Grandpa Hokage must give me? Judging from the idea of challenging Onoki before his 7th birthday. Ruahuo is indeed a little drifting. This is not a question of whether he can beat him or not. It is a question of whether Obito, Shisui, or even Grandma should open his eyes. Moreover, in front of Onoki, the option of single combat did not exist. This was the founder of the Iwagakure Raikage style, and in the future he personally led the tragedy of the 3rd Raikage being beaten by a group of 10,000 Iwagakure. Those are 10,000 Iwagakure ninjas. And there were 10,000 ninjas at the end of the war. 10,000 people beat one person. A strong man like 3rd Raikage, who could forcefully fight 8 tails in a duel, but died of exhaustion in the end. It can be said that once this person appears on the battlefield, there must be at least 4 figures of Iwagakure ninjas standing behind him. Just now Four-Tails Jinchuriki's pomp was already quite big. There were densely packed Iwagakure ninjas, plus the sealing squad, and the ninjas who came after them. Although Ruahuo didn't have a specific calculation, he conservatively estimated that there would be about 2,000 people. Obviously, this is still at least 5 digits short of Iwagakure's true military strength. So it is impossible to fight one-on-one. It's not that Wakaka didn't give Onoki a chance, it's that Onoki, the Tsuchikage, has his own gang fighting attributes. However, being a noble Uchiha, retreating and escaping were not options for Ruahuo. Not all the Uchiha clan are reckless. But he can't be a coward. Besides, it's not like he has no chance at all. The value of 3rd Tsuchikage cannot be measured in money, Wakaho-kun. He is one of the few extremely high-value targets in the world, and in this regard, he may be only slightly inferior to Lord Hokage. Orochimaru also looked to the sky. He did not have Kagura's inner eye, but he had an instinctive perception of high-risk situations. High-risk situation in that direction. Also, the commotion was so loud that the teacher almost went to the front line himself. Is it reasonable for the person to step into the battlefield personally? It seems that Ruahuo is destined to be unable to exchange these prisoners of war for bounties. Orochimaru withdrew his gaze, looked at Ruahuo, and asked, Wakahuo-kun should know that his own value is directly proportional to his own strength, right? To be on the safe side, it's better to test Ruahuo's attitude first. Of course. Ruahuo nodded. The shadow of each village represents the highest combat power of the ninja village, and is the strongest ninja in the village. 3rd Tsuchikage is the Hokage in the hearts of the Iwagakure ninjas. It should be very strong. Puff. As soon as he finished speaking, Shadow Clone number 4 appeared, the previous Shadow Clone No. 1, number 2 and number 5, in order to ensure the ownership of the war achievements, they had to squander chakra at any cost under the Uchiha logo. Now they have stopped paying dues. The Shadow Clone sequence automatically moves up. I'm going to borrow some chakra from Kushina. Shadow Clone number 4 did not stop, formed a seal to call the fire dragon, and went straight to Kushina. Orochimaru watched Shadow Clone 4 go away, frowning slightly, feeling bad. Baro Chakra. Could this child? No. Third Tsuchikage is a ninja of the same era as Hokage-sama. The dust style he masters is extremely destructive. Even Hokage-sama finds it a bit tricky. Orochimaru tried to spread some very useful, common sense, to Wakaki. This common sense can at least save this child's life. As a teacher, he can't just stand there like a gangster all the time. This is also the purpose of following Ruahuo. Is this so? Ruahuo nodded again, his expression a little solemn, as if he had listened. It seems not. Then you can't be careless. Ruahuo patted Kokuo's horns and said, Kokuo, take a rest quickly. Our next battle will be extremely difficult. The opponent is a troublesome existence that even Grandpa Hokage finds difficult. We only have one chance, so we must not be careless. Poof. Five Tails responded by spraying steam from its nostrils. Quote. Orochimaru's eyes twitched slightly, and the smile on his face became a little stiff. Sure enough, there was no retreat option in this child's dictionary. Only one chance. Seriously. Orochimaru pursed his lips and began to hesitate. Although I have learned to look at the world with Ruahuo's eyes, I do feel unprecedented clarity from a new perspective. This child definitely has the potential to change the ninja world. Orochimaru firmly believes in this. In fact, this child's unique will of fire is already affecting the structure of the ninja world. The Four Tails Jinchuriki was defeated effortlessly by Kushina, and Iwagakure lost two-tailed beasts in just 2 days. This was a huge blow to them. Provided that, if the fire is safe, take 4 Tails and 5 Tails back to Konoha. Instead of waiting here for the arrival of the third Tsuchikage, go looking for something, the only chance. Can Wakaki find a chance to defeat the third Tsuchikage? Orochimaru thinks, yes. If fire thinks there is, then this opportunity will definitely exist. But Orochimaru didn't want to witness the birth of this opportunity at this time. It's very simple. If Ruahuo is given a certain amount of room to grow, the probability of success in this opportunity will naturally increase infinitely. So, it can't be now. At least, not now. Orochimaru smiled slightly. He was not going to persuade Wakahui to retreat. As a teacher, sometimes you need to point out the path for students and let them follow this path first, and then find reasons on the way forward. It seems, it's time to give this kid a break. That guy Jiraiya often got into similar situations when he was young, and what the teacher did. Looks like I'm going to be a bad guy for once. But suddenly this time, teacher. Ruahuo looked serious. San Magatama stared at Orochimaru, and said quietly, why do I feel that your will of fire has weakened a little? Did the fear in these Iwagakure ninjas infect you? Ruahuo had already discovered it. When Four Tails Jinchuriki led a group of Iwagakure to encircle them, Orochimaru had been trying to fool him into retreating. Now that Onoki is here, Orochimaru obviously doesn't want to be tough. But that is dust style. The bloodstains formed by the fusion of wind plus earth plus fire are eliminated. Under the buff of Little Vulcan, what form will it take? Ruahuo doesn't know, but he will definitely not miss this opportunity. So how do you convince Orochimaru not to run away yet? There are so many prisoners here, and there is also a Four Tails Jinchuriki, there is no need to run away. Fear is a manifestation of weak willpower, and also a manifestation of the will of fire that is not strong enough. Orochimaru shook his head gently and said calmly. But what the teacher has to do has nothing to do with fear. The main thing is to promise Ruahuo-kun's grandma to ensure Ruahuo-kun's rest time, so. Orochimaru raised his 2 fingers and said with a smile, Wakahuo-kun doesn't want the teacher to break his promise, right? Quote. Ruahuo silently gave a thumbs up. I really belong to you, teacher. Orochimaru's face is beyond Wakaki's imagination. Even grandma can move out, which Ruahuo never expected. This is obviously determined to give himself a forced rest, and even the seal of opposition is formed. Then Ruahuo felt that there was no need to waste his time. After all, Lord Ruahuo's grandma is a very respectable elder. Orochimaru smiled and said, the teacher promised Ruahuo-kun's grandma, so we can't let her down. I still remember that when Jiraiya was still a genin, he was too excited during a sea-level mission and almost caused a disaster. The teachers at that time did the same thing. It's just that the teacher would have been more decisive at that time and directly put Jiraiya into a deep sleep. Although the effect was very good, it was not so polite after all. This is not Orochimaru's style. Although the purpose is the same, Orochimaru still wants to give Ruohuo enough respect. Sorry, teacher. Ruohuo retracts his thumb and raises both fingers to form the seal of opposition. If Grandma found out that I had chosen to retreat when I encountered a strong enemy, she would definitely hit me with a cane. Ruohuo's eyes were firm and he said, "This is not the style of an Uchiha. I have 2 younger brothers who regard me as a role model. I can't do this." "Don't tell me yet." Looking at Ruohuo's firm and sincere eyes, Orochimaru really hesitated. But this hesitation did not last long. Orochimaru immediately disrupted his chakra, regained his clarity of vision, turned slightly to the side, and easily avoided Ruohuo's fist. "Teacher has been paying attention to your growth, Ruohuo-kun." Orochimaru stretched out his arm and shot out tiny intertwined pythons from his sleeve, the latent shadow snake hand. "Clan Chief Fugaku once praised your genjutsu talent to me. Although you don't usually have the opportunity to use it, the teacher does not dare to underestimate you. This is a snake secret technique unique to Orochimaru. It is a kind of psychic technique, not an escape technique, so Wakahuo has never learned it. To be precise, I don't want to learn. Ruohuo actually doesn't like snake-like animals that much. Of course, this idea and form are good, and it is good for sneak attacks and enemy control at medium and short range. Ruohuo now has 3 Magatama and liquid fire. Maybe he can try to create his own latent shadow snake in the future. But now, fire-style fire snake. Wakaka turned around suddenly, turned his head and spit out a flaming python at Orochimaru. "You are really gentle, Lord Ruohuo." Orochimaru smiled happily. Although the will to resist is very clear, compared to facing the real enemy, Ruohuo's methods are obviously much gentler. He had seen this child look like when he was angry. With the help of 5 tails, the kid even used the fire style on the teacher, which was as powerful as the artificial sun. Poof! The fire snakes and pythons were entangled together. The pythons turned black in color under the burning flames and kept falling off, but they continued to rush towards Ruohuo. Ruohuo frowned, immediately gave up the fight, and quickly formed the seal, fire-style fire dragon bullet. "Want to get away from the teacher?" Orochimaru looked calm, "But Wakaho-kun, have you forgotten how the teacher left Konoha with you?" I saw Orochimaru stretched out his arm again, and shot out a giant python from his hand. The length and explosive power were amazing. He opened the snake's mouth and rushed directly towards Wakahuo in midair. Fire-style dragon flame. Ruohuo's reaction was not slow. The Hao fire dragon sprayed out high-temperature flames, and the 3 Magatama aimed at the long snake's mouth, preparing to feed some flames. Seeing this scene, Orochimaru smiled again. This kid is incredibly talented, and his fire-style ninjutsu talent and strength even surpass that of most jonin. With this fire style alone, Wakahara can undoubtedly be rated as a special jonin. This child also has a wild imagination. Even when facing so many Iwagakure ninjas, he can still use imaginative tactics to avoid the Iwagakure's attacks while attacking them. Orochimaru felt that he was right in his bet. In the future, this child's name will definitely be resounding throughout the ninja world. But now, still a bit immature. "You were careless, Mr. Ruohuo." The long snake suddenly changed its direction and turned in midair. Although it did not avoid the dragon flame, another small snake came out of the long snake's mouth. This little snake is white all over. It is also a psychic creature, but it has been fed by Orochimaru's chakra since childhood. The little snake that ran to the 3rd generation project desk to report earlier was also a similar little white snake exclusive to Orochimaru. Whoosh! The little white snake shot out, breathing fire like a fire. His reaction was half a beat too slow, and before he could dodge, he saw that the little white snake had already rushed in front of him, biting down hard on his neck. "It's over, Lord Ruohuo. Have a good sleep," Orochimaru said into the air. Puff! Shadow clone number 5 appeared and glanced at Orochimaru, who was motionless, with a smile on his lips but a somewhat empty look in his eyes. Isn't it inappropriate for Genjutsu's level to be exposed so early? Shadow Clone number 5 asked. Whatever. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows and checked the system interface again for the evaluation of Genjutsu's strength. Not surprisingly, Genjutsu's current rating is already A. Anyway, there is still a lot of room for improvement. A to S+ is still far away, so it doesn't matter. That's true. I'm going to find Kurama. Shadow Clone number 5 also called out the fire dragon and rushed out. Wakaki glanced at Orochimaru, shrugged, and looked into the distance. Orochimaru is so rude, even an A-level Sharingan Genjutsu can't handle it. It is said that after Orochimaru was reincarnated too many times, the strength of his soul divided itself too much. This is why Genjutsu's resistance is worse than that of tailed beasts. Now it seems that Orochimaru's own Genjutsu resistance is not that high. Of course, it could also be that his Sharingan Genjutsu is stronger. Even if Little Pepper's chakra can break free after being disturbed, that's because chakra itself provides good Genjutsu resistance. And in today's ninja world, there are still ninjas from Chitara. It seems like there are only 3 people. Kushina, Nagato, plus a Tsunade. Orochimaru doesn't count anyway. Onoki, it's impossible to count. Call. Ruahuo formed the seal again, his eyes a little excited. Sharingan cannot copy the setting of the blood succession limit, as it has been broken by the little Vulcan buff. The lava-style ninjutsu I got from Murasaki earlier is the best answer. The blood stain elimination, not the high-temperature elimination, should be able to be copied. Ruahuo couldn't wait any longer. The dust-style version of the flames, combined with the scale of the wood-style ninjutsu. Let's just say, what kind of combination ninjutsu can resist such a combination? Chapter 71. You want Kurama's chakra this time. Kushina has returned to her normal form, looking at Ruahuo's shadow clone number 5 with a confused expression. This is the second time that Wakahuo's shadow clone has asked her to borrow chakra since she defeated the Four Tails Jinchuriki. It's just that the first time I asked for hers, this time I asked for Kurama's. Well, Kurama's chakra has relatively obvious features and can be used to attract attention. Shadow clone number 5 said. Attract attention. Attract whose attention? Kushina didn't quite understand, but she did it anyway. After a brief communication with Kurama, a layer of chakra appeared on Kushina's body, and her pupils temporarily became vertical pupils. And this time, 9 tails accurately lent the amount of a tail. Attract third Tsuchikage's attention. Shadow Clone 5 received 9 tails chakra, and a tailed beast coat appeared on its body, making it look like a little Jinchuriki. The tailed beast chakra coat is still recognizable to a certain extent. Maybe we can create some opportunities later. Kushina was even more confused. Third Tsuchikage. She quickly reacted and pointed to the horizon from a distance. Are you talking about the guy who can also fly? Well, the teacher said he is the third Tsuchikage. Shadow clone number 5 said calmly. Ah, Kushina was shocked, but she was more excited. We have already alerted Iwagaku's shadow. Yeah, shadow clone number 5 formed a seal with his hands, summoned a fire dragon, stepped on it, and then flew directly in the direction Kushina pointed. Quote. Kushina blinked. What is he going to do? Death. After obtaining Kushina Chakra's shadow clone No. 4 Kaido, forming seals with both hands at the same time, and performing a transformation technique, he transformed into the form of Four Tails Jinchuriki. Quote. Kushina looked at shadow clone number 4, and then at the real Four Tails Jinchuriki on the ground who had been forcibly beaten back to human form from the half-tailed beast state, and suddenly felt a little itchy in her head. Shadow clone went to die. Does it mean delaying time? Then it becomes like this. What are you doing again? Kushina scratched her head, as if she was about to grow a brain. I'm a bait. Maybe I can sneak attack the third Hokage later. Shadow clone number 4 answered simply. After saying that, he picked up the Four Tails Jinchuriki, summoned a fire dragon, and stepped on it. Sister Kushina, grab his feet first. Okay. Shadow clone 4 held Z's hand, Kushina held Z's feet, and the fire dragon flew towards Five Tails, and finally landed on Five Tails' head. As soon as she landed, Kushina realized something didn't seem right. Directly in front of Five Tails is a canyon. Behind the canyon are the Iwagaku ninjas who are waiting in full formation, but their morale is obviously low. Facing the gaze of Five Tails, they did not take the initiative to attack, but just faced off nervously, maintaining a distance that they thought was safe. What are they doing? Kushina asked with a frown. They are all prisoners, chips to be used in exchange for land later. Ruahuo replied. Is that so? Kushina seemed to understand, but she still felt that something was wrong. Turning around, he found that Ruahuo had summoned another shadow clone. Kushina blinked, looked at the two Ruahuo in front of her, and narrowed her eyes suspiciously. What are you two doing again? Please help us borrow chakra for 2, thank you. Wakahui raised his hand and replied, when I may have a decisive battle with 3rd Tsuchikage later, I may have to temporarily separate from Kokuo. Shadow clone number 6 then raised his hand, I need enough chakra to fly to Iwagakure village and try to bomb their village. Kushina opened her mouth wide and was speechless for a while. Ruohuo and the shadow clones actually made it very clear, and Kushina is not stupid. After a little combination, Ruohuo's plan was probably figured out. He was stalling for time, pretending to be Four Tails Jinchuriki, and even planned to bomb Iwagakure village. I understand all this. Kushina pointed to Orochimaru not far away. Something was obviously wrong with Orochimaru. He had his hands behind his back, facing Five Tails' horns alone, muttering to himself in a low voice, not knowing what he was talking about, like a psycho. But what is Orochimaru-sama doing? Oh, the teacher thought my plan was too dangerous and wanted to stop me. I thought he was too much of a hindrance, so I gave him several genjutsu. Wakahuo said calmly, but genjutsu can't control the teacher for too long. Can Sister Kushina help tie him to Five Tails' horns? Ah, Kushina was stunned for a moment. By the way, Ruahuo blinked. The teacher also said that in order to ensure the safety of the tailed beasts, after returning to the village this time, he will definitely report to Master Hokage so that we will not leave the village in the future. Kushina was silent for half a second. King Kong blockade. A chakra chain shot out from Kushina's back, directly binding Orochimaru tightly. Orochimaru regained consciousness in an instant, and immediately noticed the bondage between his body and chakra, and frowned. Then Orochimaru lowered his head and saw the chain on his body, and followed the direction of the chain and saw Kushina, who was injecting tailed beast chakra into two Wakahui. Orochimaru understood something immediately. Your genjutsu is beyond teacher's imagination, Wakahuo-kun. Ruahuo rolled his eyes in return. I didn't realize that the teacher could be so despicable and would use Grandma as a shield. Grandma. Kushina felt her head was itching again. Orochimaru let out a breath and looked at the two Wakahui wearing tailed beast chakra coats. He couldn't tell which one was the real body, so he smiled and shook his head. The teacher underestimated your determination, Wakahuo-kun. Orochimaru paused. Can you tell the teacher your plan? The words just fell. Boom. A violent roar came from the distance, and the dazzling firelight briefly illuminated the night, but soon the firelight was swallowed up by a bright white light. This white light went as quickly as it came, and the night sky returned to darkness, as if nothing had happened. The battle has begun. Ruahuo frowned slightly. The one who went to intercept Onoki was Shadow Clone No. 5. It has not been defeated yet, but it should not be able to copy Dust style. Wakahuo estimated that Shadow Clone number 5's fire style blocked his line of sight and missed Onoki's opportunity to form the seal and mobilize chakra. But very quickly. The speed of light is faster than sound. Ruahuo clearly saw two fire dragons appearing in the sky, but they were instantly blocked by a rectangular white light, and then they were swallowed up. This wasn't over yet. The white light hit the front again, swallowing up the last fire dragon. Oh ho! Ruahuo raised his eyebrows and looked at the prompts that appeared almost simultaneously. The first phase of the combat plan was successful. Ninjutsu type. S-level Dust style, the art of stripping away the original world. When the Little Vulcan effect is triggered, you can learn all escape techniques, but all escape techniques activated will be replaced by flames. Successfully learned ninjutsu. Fire style, the art of original realm peeling. The system prompts only 3 sentences. Ruahuo watched carefully, read over and over again, and finally saw 2 words in the gaps between the lines: vein. This is the first S-class ninjutsu that Wakahui has copied. But just using ninjutsu to describe this gain is obviously superficial, one-sided and very narrow. Because this is not only a technique, but most importantly, it is a blood stain elimination. Developed by second Tsuchikage, it is a fusion of the three properties of wind, earth, and fire, resulting in a blood inheritance elimination that exceeds the limits of blood inheritance. The most important thing is that dust style itself is actually a form, and there is only one form. The caster can only change the shape, or increase the scale or duration. This is totally incompatible with Ruahuo's Little Vulcan buff. Bang Ruahuo's sea-level main skill, Fire Style, and Great Fireball, which has repeatedly made military exploits. Isn't it powerful not only because of its power, but also because it can change its form at will? Dust Style also has the same effect. Although it is a skill, it can be changed into any shape according to the user's wishes. Looks like I have to set off. Shadow Clone number 6 has been automatically promoted to Shadow Clone No. 5. He looked at Ruohuo and was about to set off immediately. But the direction was not the Iwagakure village planned at the beginning, but the direction towards the third Tsuchikage again. Now that you've got Dust Style, the overall plan can be tightened up a bit. Ruohuo waited for a moment, formed seals with his hands again, added the position of Shadow Clone number 6, and then looked at Kushina. I understand, Kushina said wisely and called Nine Tails when she was forming the seal of Ruohuo. After a lot of diplomacy and beating Four Tails Jinchuriki to vent their anger, the relationship between Kushina and Nine Tails has obviously warmed up a lot. Almost instantly, Nine Tails prepared the chakra and passed it to Shadow Clone 6 through Kushina. The plan is to enter the second phase. Little Nine Tails No. 6 Shadow Clone set off first. Wakahuo was so cool that he snapped his fingers, summoned the fire dragon, and pulled Shadow Clone number 4, who was pretending to be Four Tails Jinchuriki, to step on it. Sister Kushina, please help me remove the seal from Four Tails Jinchuriki. Ruohuo explained. Kokuo will take you to a safe place. I will try to stop the third Tsuchikage. When the time comes, let Goku ride Kokuo and come to me as soon as possible. Wukong, riding a white dragon horse. It tastes like that. Go ahead and stop the third generation project. But can you do it by yourself? Kushina frowned. Your Shadow Clone has Kurama's chakra, and it only lasted less than 5 seconds. Shadow Clone and the main body are not the same concept, Sister Kushina. Ruohuo pointed to Shadow Clone 4 next to him, and I'm here to negotiate, so there may be unexpected results. Ruohuo-kun. Orochimaru was tied up firmly, with a different kind of light shining in his eyes. You learned it, right? Forget. Almost forgot. As a teacher, I almost forgot this child's most powerful talent. This kid can activate all ninjutsu in fire style. This kid can also learn all ninjutsu in the shortest possible time. You don't know my grandma at all, teacher. Wakahuo said with an indifferent expression. Grandma often said that only those with the purest will of fire can become the most powerful Uchiha. Uchiha is never afraid, because the will of fire will bless every brave Uchiha, giving them courage, wisdom, and strength. Once they choose to retreat, the will of fire will dissipate. I once asked my grandma how I should protect my companions when facing enemies that are stronger than me. Grandma told me, kill them all. Ode. The fire dragon soared into the sky, and with the determination of a fire, it kept up with the fire not far away. The firelight had already rushed in front of third Tsuchikage, and he used all the chakra to spray a super great fireball at Onoki that was enough to light up the entire night sky. But tonight's protagonist no longer seems to be the reappearance of the miniature sun. Another white light bloomed, spreading out in a circle in front of the entire fireball, like a shield, but it swallowed up all the fireballs. The night sky briefly returned to darkness. But then there was another dazzling white light, and the fire was finally swallowed up by the white light and disappeared. The night was briefly illuminated again. Once again it was back to darkness. A dark cloud covered the moon, and suddenly only the increasingly smaller firelight remained in the entire night sky, rushing past again. This kid. The heat in Orochimaru's eyes gradually dissipated, and the expression on his face became less elegant. Although I have known for a long time that Ruohuo's overly fiery will of fire came from Grandma's words and deeds. But what Ruohuo said just now made Orochimaru see another side of this child. The will of fire is inheritance and protection. This child's will of fire may have had a little more warmth, which caused him some misunderstandings. But it turns out that this child's will of fire is indeed based on protection. Guard, guard. Therefore, the ninjas on the front line of Konoha are far away on the other side. The distance between Konoha Ninja Village and even the huge Five Tails would take more than 2 hours at full sprint. Behind him are a group of Iwagakure prisoners. Further back, the reinforcements from the Uchiha clan were obviously still some distance away from here. So this kid, what is he protecting? Poof. Five Tails blew out steam from its nostrils, gathered some strength, and started running at full speed again. Orochimaru seemed to understand something at this moment. Could it be that what this child wants to protect is his partner? But if his partner starts running at full speed, no one in the ninja world can keep up. Oh, Minato maybe, but the Iwagakure ninja doesn't know how to fly the thunder god. Orochimaru frowned, falling into deep self-doubt. What did you miss? At this time, what, can this also be called a seal? Kushina pouted, chakra attached to the palm of her hand, and slapped Four Tails Jinchuriki on the stomach. The seal is broken. There is no trick to break the seal. Kushina just slapped the seal and broke it. Ode. The next second, scarlet chakra suddenly rose into the sky from Four Tails Jinchuriki's 7 orifices. Kokuo, don't run too far, prepare to turn around. Kushina clapped her hands. We have to go support that little guy. Is it Shadow Clone again? Onoki, who was floating in the air, frowned. This is already the 3rd flying fire dragon. That Jinchuriki kid's fire style is very powerful, and all the ones coming are Shadow Clone, which is obviously delaying time. So is this Uchiha brat a 9 Tails Jinchuriki, or? Onoki is not very good at judging now. Konoha's 9 Tails Jinchuriki has always been mysterious, and Iwagakure's information about 9 Tails Jinchuriki is still 40 years ago. It is a woman named Uzumaki Mito. She is the wife of the first Hokage. She is powerful, but her lifespan has come to an end. The identity of the new 9 Tails Jinchuriki is currently a mystery. Union, who had temporarily reached a cooperation intention, shared some information. It was said that Konoha's 9 Tails Jinchuriki was a red-haired woman, and Kumogakure almost kidnapped her, but unfortunately failed. Onoki, who had always been suspicious of this information, didn't quite believe it. 3rd Raikage is not just a guy with muscles. The 3rd Hokage is an extremely hypocritical and cunning old guy. Konoha has never put 9 Tails Jinchuriki on the battlefield, and its protection of 9 Tails Jinchuriki is airtight. How did you, Kumogakure, decide that it was not an intelligence trap? You almost kidnapped someone. How ridiculous. Unless he saw 9 Tails Jinchuriki transform into a tailed beast with his own eyes, Onoki would not be able to believe this kind of information. The Iwagakure spy in Konoha previously reported back information that Uchiha and Konoha have a huge potential conflict. Hasn't this Uchiha brat become a Jinchuriki? Ode. The fire dragon gets closer and closer. The tailed beast chakra coat on this kid's clone is so obvious, but this time it's not the same person. It seems to be holding. Lao Zi, really defeated. Onoki narrowed his eyes, his murderous intention getting stronger. He personally selected the 2 Jinchuriki candidates, and they are trustworthy ninjas. Han has died in battle. Lao Zi was also held in this kid's hand. But the more this happened, Onoki became a little afraid to mobilize chakra to activate dust style. Things may be turning around. Lao Zi, may be still saved. Ruikahuo slowed down slightly and observed the position of Iwagakure's troops. The horizontal distance is not too far, and Onoki is directly above the Iwagakure troops. But the vertical distance was not close. Onoki was obviously trying to prevent the air combat from affecting the Iwagakure ninjas, so he flew at a high altitude, at least 300 meters. This makes it very difficult for the sensing ninja to provide information. 2 shadow clone and 2 interceptions are more than just delaying time. It's all tactics. The fire dragon stopped 10 meters in front of Onoki and circled into the emblem of the Uchiha clan. Wakahuo held the collar of Four Tails Jinchuriki with one hand and stared at Onoki expressionlessly. Are you here to negotiate this time, Uchiha brat? Onoki said solemnly. Negotiation. Ruahuo raised his head with a look of disdain. You are thinking too much, little old man. Can't you see such a big clan emblem? We, the Uchiha clan, have always only accepted surrender, not negotiation. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Onoki felt a burst of anger surge in his heart, this arrogant Uchiha brat. But Onoki quickly frowned again and suppressed his anger. As a Tsuchikage, he would not be so angry that a kid would make him faint. Are you trying to delay time? Kid. Onoki crossed his arms across his chest and said calmly and indifferently, it's useless. Before I got here, I had already defeated all the ninjas on your front line. Look at these Iwagakure ninjas below you and count how many there are in total. Kid. Iwagakure is so powerful that you can't imagine. Before dawn, these ninjas will rush into the territory of the Land of Fire and kill Konoha in the shortest possible time. From now on, Konoha will hang the flag of Iwagakure. Quote. Ruahuo was silently counting the time while listening to Onoki threatening the children. Last time, it took nearly 10 minutes for Five Tails, which was almost at full strength, to break through the seal. This time Four Tails had been beaten violently and might be in a weak state, but Kushina lifted the seal. Let's just call it 8 minutes. Ruahuo is here to delay time. When the tailed beast knight is ready, it will be useless no matter how many Iwagakure ninjas come. As for Onoki, are you done? Ruahuo mentioned Four Tails Jinchuriki, and threw it down. Quote exclamation mark quote. Onoki's heart skipped a beat and he almost couldn't help but pick it up. But soon, Onoki discovered that Lao Zi's hands had been tied up with an iron chain. This kid was holding the other end of the chain and hanging Lao Zi in the air. Hanging in front of the fire dragon coiled into the emblem of the Uchiha clan. Well, Shadow Clone number 4 groaned just right, but still did not open its eyes, vividly interpreting the image of a person who was ravaged in a coma. If Ruahuo raised his 2 fingers, the fire dragon immediately opened its bloody mouth, and the rich chakra gathered in the mouth. If you don't want this guy and the 4 tails in his body to be roasted by me, let the guys below retreat immediately. And you are not allowed to turn around and walk backwards. Keep an eye on this guy and move back. Immediately. Dong 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 dong. Onoki's heartbeat began to accelerate. Lao Zi is not dead yet. That fire dragon is a fire-style ninjutsu. It has a certain temperature itself. It is so hot that it is obviously impossible for it to be disguised as a clone. So, before the kid spoke again, Onoki made a decisive decision and suddenly shouted, "That's ridiculous." Buzz. White light condensed in Onoki's hand, and dust style quickly took shape. Kid. The heart of an Iwagakure ninja is as tall and hard as the Rocky Mountains of Iwagakure. This is a battlefield. Everyone is ready to sacrifice. I'm not playing house with you, kid. Dust style the art of peeling off the original world. Don't dare to take this move forcefully. Wakaba didn't dare to be careless at all. He had seen the scene where Onoki cut Uchiha Madara's wood style in one breath. The forward swing of dust style takes a certain amount of time, but once it takes shape, it is unrivaled in terms of power and controllability. But it's not a big problem. He has already left enough room to sprint. Wakahuo immediately threw Shadow Clone 4 towards Onoki, and at the same time controlled the fire dragon and dived directly towards the Iwagakure ninjas. Wakahu's 3 Magatama firmly locked onto Onoki. If Onoki can really be ruthless and cut with the Iwagakure ninja, then he can only start Plan B. According to the system, when he completes the task, he can get a pair of Mangekyo Izanagi, a life-saving skill, but will lose one eye. Ruahuo has long wanted to try it. It can be refreshed anyway, so it's useless if you don't use it. But obviously, it is impossible for the shadow of any village to do this. What's more, he inherited the son of the first Tsuchikage and the disciple of the second Tsuchikage. The Nindo is, protect Iwagakure at all costs. Who is the brat? Onoki's eyes flashed with satisfaction. Even the Byakugan, which can see through rocks, cannot see into the heart of the Iwagakure ninja. You're too immature, kid. Onoki taunted, then grabbed Lao Zi. But suddenly, you should have surrendered earlier, little old man. Old Zi, who was unconscious, suddenly opened his eyes, grinned widely, and formed seals with his hands. Fire style fire prison technique. Dust style the art of peeling off the original world. At the moment when the fire prison was formed, Onoki finally used the dust style. Dust style instantly disintegrates everything in front of him into powder, including Shadow Clone No. 4. What the hell is Tsuchikage? Have you got any left? Ruahuo grumbled and temporarily cancelled Plan B. Whether it was the suspicious Onoki who held back a hand or whether he reacted quickly. Although Shadow Clone 4 has been crushed into powder, Plan A is obviously a success. At least, it bought him enough time. Fire style. If Ruahuo formed a seal with his hands again, it was still the Yin seal. The art of stripping away the original world. Then with a sharp breath, chakra reacted quickly in the body, puffed up its mouth, leaving only a small opening, and finally, sprayed out a straight laser ray from the mouth. Nani? Onoki didn't have time to be surprised. His survival instinct and physical potential were activated at the same time. He chose to evade the Wakahui ninjutsu the moment it took shape, but he still couldn't escape Wakahui's laser beam. A piece of flesh was cut off from the calf, and the wound was directly burned. It turns out to be this form. Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. Without the decomposition effect, the range was also compressed, and finally turned into an ultra-high temperature laser. The fire-style version of Dust Style is very different from the original Dust Style, both in terms of activation method and ninjutsu formation steps. In fact, after learning Lava Style, Ruahuo considered this situation. According to the Boil Style, fused with Little Vulcan, it should be possible to acquire some attributes by learning Lava Style ninjutsu. For example, adding magma properties to flames. But no. The Lava Style version of Fire Style only turns Fire Style into liquid fire. The form has indeed changed, but Ruahuo discovered it himself. The system does not prompt. This is a normal phenomenon and does not require integration. The Boil Style provided by Five Tails Chakra actually provides attributes, rather than escape techniques, so it requires additional fusion. The Boil Style, used by Han before, was strictly speaking a ninjutsu that provided a boost to the body, so it did not trigger the learning effect of Little Vulcan. For the real Boil Style ninjutsu, you still have to find Terumi Mei. But Dust Style is different. Because of the attributes of Little Fire God, Dust Style's form will be replaced by Fierce Flames, but it is obvious that Liang's form has also undergone earth-shaking changes. The effect of Dust Style is decomposition, which is a blood elimination with an almost overflowing upper limit. It is extremely powerful and has a huge range. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is the most lethal. After changing to Fire Style, the decomposition effect is obviously gone. But the damage of the flames was increased to the extreme, turning it into an ultra-high temperature laser ray. You little devil. Onoki's expression was extremely ferocious due to the severe pain, and he gritted his teeth, and these words came out from between his teeth. You are the one who chose to be Uchiha's enemy, little old man. Ruahuo tilted his head. Why, after being a Tsuchikage for so many years, do you think you can do it again? Looking at the large wild trees in the sky, Ruahuo became calm. Let's talk about it. First, the second time I set foot on the battlefield, I had to face an opponent like third Tsuchikage. Ruahuo was still a little nervous. Before setting off, I was even prepared to activate Izanagi. Anyway, it can be refreshed, so if you don't use it, it will be in vain. That being said, he can only use it once at most. You can't let yourself go blind, right? The previous two Shadow Clone shots were just to test Onoki's attitude. Onoki always uses Dust Style whenever he meets, so he has to make an exception for Uchiha. With so many prisoners in hand and a Four Tails Jinchuriki-Z, it's not impossible to negotiate. But Ruahuo didn't expect that the battle plan would be so successful. Although Shadow Clone didn't completely succeed in sneak attack, the effect was pretty good. Even if Onoki was not hit by his high-temperature laser, the fire prison technique at that moment did indeed envelope Onoki. At least it gave him the opportunity to activate the high-temperature laser. Now, the initiative is completely in his hands. Don't show such an expression, little old man, I still like your unruly look at the beginning. Ruahuo raised his head and spread his hands arrogantly. What, do you want to try to strangle this Uchiha genius in the cradle? Once a genius like me grows up, it will definitely be a tricky thing for Iwagakure, right? Come on, try it. Use Dust Style on me. I promise not to hide. But the hard hearts of you Iwagakure ninjas shouldn't be able to withstand your Dust Style, right? It was impossible not to hide, but but Ruahuo was sure to kill Onoki before he made a move. Dust Style is indeed a knockout with overflowing power. In the ninja world, there are many ways to kill people. A Senbon, a Kunai, even a great fireball has the ability to kill enemies. And Dust Style is the most lethal ninjutsu. The lethality is extremely high, and if the caster has enough chakra, the upper limit of the power can be increased again. You know, Onoki, who had chakra provided by Tsunade, killed 25 Susanas in one breath. That is to say, Naruto doesn't know Dust Style, otherwise Naruto in Fox mode would be enough to level the ninja world with just one Sage Art Dust Style. But Dust Style also has weaknesses. As a certain unborn white-eyed wolf Jinchuriki said, every ninjutsu has weaknesses. Putting aside the difficulty of learning Dust Style and the non-replicability of Sharingan, the forward swing of Dust Style is long enough. But none of this exists for Ruahuo. Fire Style original stripping technique may not have the ability to decompose. But the extremely high temperature laser rays and the quick activation provided by the little Vulcan buffer enough to make up for it. At least, facing Onoki in front of him, at this distance, he would definitely be able to headshot Onoki before he activated the genuine Dust Style. Onoki gritted his teeth, enduring the severe pain while making a decision in his mind. As this Uchiha brat says, letting such a genius grow up will definitely be a disaster for Iwagakure. But this kid is obviously not looking for death. Are you still hesitating, little old man? If you hesitate for too long, the price of surrender will become higher. Wakahuo pointed in the direction of Iwagakure. My shadow clone has been setting off for a long time. His purpose is to take advantage of the emptiness inside your village and destroy Iwagakure village like the god of Mubi Bridge. Wakahara showed a harmless smile. Little old man, do you want Iwagakure to be the first village destroyed by Uchiha? I don't know if it was an hallucination caused by the severe pain. Onoki's eyes were actually in a daze at this moment, and some memories that had been sealed for a long time appeared in front of him again. That was more than 40 years ago. The head of the Senju clan shook hands with Uchiha and made peace. Those two terrifying super ninja clans established the Konoha ninja village system. Ninja clans from all major countries followed suit one after another, and the 5 major ninja villages were established. The first Hokage is a powerful ninja who is powerful yet tolerant. My father said before he was alive that that person's mind was even broader than the land of Iwagakure. Following the gaze of the ninja god, you may be able to see a peaceful future. As a young man, he came to Konoha with passion and the friendship of Iwagakure, hoping to sign an alliance with the god of ninja to protect each other and maintain peace. Until they meet another man. That man came from the Uchiha clan and was a powerful ninja as famous as the god of ninja. Everyone called him Shira of the ninja world. He showed unparalleled power and defeated all the Iwagakure ninjas who went to Konoha by crushing him. He refused to enter into an alliance with Iwagakure for an extremely arrogant but extremely reasonable reason. Why should the superior gods care about the feelings of ants? Onoki will never forget the look in that man's eyes that night. Scarlet eyes, disdainful attitude, as if he doesn't care about everything. Kid, Onoki gritted his teeth and overcame the physical pain, but the psychological shadow could not be contained. The look in this kid's eyes. Very much like Shira from the ninja world that night. Don't just look at me, little old man, take a look at the Iwagakure ninjas below. You are the 3rd Tsuchikage they respect most. Ruahuo spread his hands and said, but before your Dust Style affects them, can you at least take a look at them? It's a pity that you are flying too high. Even if they want to say goodbye to you, you probably won't be able to hear them. Ruahuo's eyes are locked on Onoki. As long as Onoki shows signs of launching Dust Style, he will not hesitate to activate laser rays and collect Onoki's body. Then, run away decisively. Of course, it would be best if Onoki could figure it out himself. He also wanted to negotiate amicably with Onoki. Will the angry Iwagakure attack Konoha at all costs after the death of their Tsuchikage? Not really. After the death of 3rd Raikage, Kumogakure's tough men all knew to start defending and stabilize the situation to prevent other ninja villages from raiding. Once the shadow of a village is killed, the rhythm of the war will be interrupted. If the Great Ninja War continues to consume Konoha, it is best to keep the forces of all parties within a balanced boundary. Then let Konoha break this boundary, thereby accelerating the ninja war into its true form, siege Konoha. So if possible, Ruahuo still wants to reach an agreement with Iwagakure. An agreement was reached to try to attack Konoha. What exactly do you want from me? Onoki strives to maintain his dignity as a Tsuchikage. Even though the person standing in front of him is just a kid, this kid is definitely Iwagakure's toughest enemy right now. Don't say anything to ask Iwagakure to surrender. I tell you, this is impossible. Even if I agree, it's impossible for the Iwagakure men to agree. Onoki is very tough. Then why don't you surrender on your own? Ruahuo said indifferently. I didn't ask Iwagakure to surrender. 2,000 ninjas surrounded me, and I drove them into a cage and locked them up. Why should I ask such a waste to surrender? Little old man, you have to understand one thing. Not everyone is qualified to surrender to the Uchiha clan. Wakahuo spread his hands and said, don't you know how Konoha was established? The Senju clan leader used his own life as a guarantee, and then the surrender approval of the Uchiha clan leader was passed. Ruahuo paused, and he remembered that Dazu beat Madara violently, and then pledged his own life to make Madara let go of her hatred. Well, it doesn't matter, history is written by the victors. But looking back, you can use this to mock Uchiha Madara. You, a guy who can't even hit a big pillar, led the Uchiha clan to surrender to Senju. No wonder no one recognizes you as the clan leader. I also chose to give you this opportunity because you taught me dust style. Ruahuo continued. We, the Uchiha clan, are very grateful. You taught me dust style. I will give you a chance to surrender and we will settle the matter. Onoki was shocked and couldn't even feel the pain in his body at this moment. When did I? Was it that technique just now? The jutsu Wakahui just used flashed in Onoki's eyes. The speed is extremely fast, the temperature is extremely high, and the key activation speed is very fast, but it is obviously a fire style. No. Onoki's eyes widened. This kid is hinting at himself. He can use that technique again before he activates dust style. Ruahuo also saw the change in Onoki's eyes and gave him a, do you want to try it? Look. The Iwagakure ninjas below have begun to disperse. Because of Wakara's positioning problem and his sufficient height, the Iwagakure were unable to attack him, but Onoki's dust style against him would spread to the bottom. The Iwagakure ninjas are not fools either. Although they don't have the ability to attack the air, they can at least not hold back their own Tsuchikage. The Iwagakure troops at the front were accelerating, and the ninjas at the rear were also spreading out, trying to gain space for Onoki to activate dust style. Ruahuo had already noticed this situation, and he estimated that Onoki was also waiting. Perhaps Onoki has received his hint just now, but this Tsuchikage may not necessarily give in. It is also possible to kill the evil Uchiha even though he is seriously injured. But it doesn't matter, he is waiting. 5 minutes have passed, Kushina's side should be. Roar. Thinking like this, an extremely angry roar suddenly exploded. Ah! The smile on Ruahuo's face became even wider. It seems that Four Tails has been completely unblocked, little old man. The Four Tails Jinchuriki who almost had you cremated on the spot just now seems to be very important to you. If you surrender to me now, I can consider leaving his body to you. That's right. Ruahuo rubbed his hands, counting the time. My shadow clone is almost at Iwagakure village. If you don't see the signal being sent to him. Onoki couldn't bear it anymore. If I kill you now, your shadow clone will also disappear. Ruahuo couldn't bear it anymore and formed seals violently. No oil or salt could enter, right? What the hell did I do to you? Onoki was startled, and while retreating, he quickly formed seals. Dust style. Call out. If the light of fire is faster than dust style. This time it penetrated Onoki's shoulder directly. It's not that it's crooked, Onoki's arm is definitely unsalvageable. I can't save my arm, and I can't seal the seal. Ruahuo charged directly, grabbed Onoki's neck with one hand, and flew straight into the air. Immediately, surrender to me. Otherwise, I will let Four Tails ride Five Tails and run to the gate of your village to release the tailed beast Jade. Third generation Tsuchikage-sama. At the moment when Ruahuo's attack was successful, the hearts of all the Iwagakure ninjas were raised. Especially Wangtu, Iwagakure's frontline commander against Konoha. As Onoki's son, Wangtu is one of the strongest men in Iwagakure, but he knows his father's situation better. Even without the back injury that would occur from time to time, my father's physical close-up skills had been wasted for a long time due to the Tsuchikage thing. Once he was close, the situation would become extremely dangerous. What's more, Dad was injured before he was attacked. That is to say, Huangtu still doesn't know that Ruohuo has mastered the dust style, otherwise he would definitely not be able to force himself to calm down like he is now. Don't be nervous. Speed up. Protect the Sealing Squad. Our mission is to recover 4 tails and 5 tails. Trust Tsuchikage-sama. Huangtu's tough orders temporarily stabilized the morale of the troops. But very quickly, roar, roar, roar. There were 3 roars in succession, almost exploding at the same time. Immediately afterwards, the Iwagakure ninjas saw a scene that they had been prepared for, but it was indeed the scene they least wanted to see. Only the distance is visible. The huge bodies of 4 tails and 5 tails were rushing towards them at full speed. There is nothing worse than seeing your tailed beast charging towards you on the battlefield. Iwagakure is not without examples of tailed beast riots. But this is the first time that 2 tailed beasts rioted at the same time. Perhaps the only good news is that it is still far from the village. Defensive formation. Prepare for impact. The sealing team retreats temporarily. Be careful of being affected by the tailed beast Jade. Seal 5 tails with all your strength first. Prepare Earth style. Wangtu calmly commanded the Iwagakure ninja without any panic. Although Iwagakure suffered heavy losses in these 2 days, the uncounted casualties alone may have reached more than 3,000. But as long as both tailed beasts can be recovered, the loss this time can be made up for. Huangtu glanced at the sky again. The distance is too far, and you can only see the light of fire getting further and further away. Huangtu became increasingly worried, but at this moment, there was nothing he could do. We can only try our best to seal the 2-tailed beasts. Iwagakure's men are invincible. Earth style. Wanli Earth Flow Wall. Boom. 5 tails was the first to attack Iwagakure's army, but was blocked by a thick and hard earth wall. As the shinobi village who is best at earth style, Iwagakure has its own advantages in defense. Especially for dealing with tailed beast riots, they have a complete system. At least no cage has to sacrifice himself to seal the tailed beast. Sealing class prepares. Huangtu immediately ordered to try to seal 5 tails in the shortest possible time. But he soon gave up on the idea. Get ready for the tailed beast Tama. It is indeed a tailed beast Jade, but it does not come from 4 tails, but the 4 tails Kushina on the head of 4 tails. Below Kushina, on the hook-shaped horns of 4 tails Son Goku, there is a man bound by chakra chains. Kushina, you could consider putting me down first, really. I will no longer interfere with Lord Ruohuo's will. As his teacher, I should be able to help. Kushina, Kushina, roar. 4 tails let out a deafening roar, and Kushina also activated the tailed beast Tama. Lord Orochimaru, I'm not tying you to Kokuo's horns, so I'm being very tolerant. Boom. The tailed beast Tama smashed into the defense line of the Iwagakure ninja, but Kushina, who was covered in 9 tails chakra, frowned. I sensed a lot of sealing techniques style chakra fluctuations. Goku, go to Kokuo quickly. She is worthy of being the mother of the child of prophecy. Following Kabuto's diplomacy and temporarily reaching a less than companion relationship with 9 tails, he helped 4 tails lift the seal and had 5 tails as a guarantor. 4 tails also had a certain affection for this human being. Roar. 4 tails slapped his chest, rushed in the direction of Kokuo, and punched him directly, helping 5 tails break through the first Earth-style defense line of the Iwagakure ninja. Oops. The lowest secret path is not good. In the past tailed beast riots, whether it was 4 tails or 5 tails, they only knew how to vent their power randomly. Faced with 2 tailed beasts at the same time this time, Wangtu discovered that the tailed beasts can cooperate with each other. No, it's a 3-headed tailed beast, and 4 tails has a Jinchuriki on its head. Sealing class prepares. Defense squad. Trap them. The fight was in full swing below. Ruohuo's side is much easier. He dragged Anamu with one hand and flew for several kilometers. Anamu did not resist the whole time. Only then did Ruohuo realize that the little old man was unconscious. Half of it was painful, and half of it was roasted. What should I do? Ruahuo was also a little hesitant. The original plan was to persuade Onoki to surrender voluntarily, but that didn't seem to work. The stubbornness of this little old man was beyond his imagination. If he hadn't taken action in advance, I felt that Onoki would have chosen to die with him even if he risked his life. Ruahuo really didn't doubt this. If he couldn't get a laser headshot, even if it hit Onoki's heart, the little old man might activate Dust Style before he died and forcibly disintegrate him. Well, although it's a pity that I didn't get to experience Izanagi, you taught me Dust Style after all. If you are not willing to surrender, I will compensate you in other ways. Ruahuo thought about it. It was decided to send Onoki, safely, back to Iwagakure. Forget it if you don't surrender. It seems rare to anyone. Yo, during the flight, Ruahuo suddenly saw Shadow Clone 6 in front of him. It was number 3 now. One less 6-path Shadow Clone was left before leaving the border. Now he has 3 Shadow Clone outside. The progress of Shadow Clone 3 was relatively slow, because in the first half of the journey, in order to avoid Onoki's sight, he had been flying at a low altitude. After flying for a while, it started to take off. Hello. If the fire catches up with the Shadow Clone, the 2 fire dragons meet in the sky. What's going on? Shadow Clone glanced at Onoki in the main body's hand, and then at Ruahuo's 2 eyes that were still alive. He breathed a sigh of relief, and his expression became weird again. Did you win the battle? The mutated Dust Style is stronger than Dust Style. There was no counterattack. Number 4 cooperated with me to successfully attack in a sneak attack, but the output method is different from Dust Style. There is no decomposition, only ultra-high temperature burning. The current form is a laser. Ruahuo thought for a moment and told Shadow Clone 3, I still have to go back. You send Onoki back to Iwagakure village and use them to test their power. By the way, it's best to use a laser to carve a carving on their mountain. This time, instead of Uchiha, just carve a konoha. Let's make a hatred. Shadow Clone number 3 frowned. What if I just use a kunai to tattoo Onoki's body? He is over 50 years old. Ruahuo felt a little moral restraint. Let's get a tattoo on his face. I will try to make this little old man look in the mirror and prepare to fight Konoha to the death. After handing Onoki to Shadow Clone 3, Ruahuo immediately turned around and rushed to the front line. What Konoha Ninja Shadow Clone 3 will do to Onoki and Iwagakure is not clear yet, but Iwagakure probably won't forgive Konoha easily in the future. What can be expected is that the Third Ninja War should speed up some progress. Heroes are made in troubled times. Uchiha took the opportunity to rise up, withstood the baptism of a war, and was reborn from the ashes. He did not seek to return to his peak period, but at least had a certain degree of deterrence. Although we have experienced war, casualties are inevitable. But there is nothing that can be done about it. Ruahuo believes that 100 tribesmen who failed to open their eyes will definitely be inferior to 10 tribesmen with single Magatama in terms of strength assessment. Uchiha's current strength will be embarrassing. It is true that he is an elite stream, but the elite stream is not very skilled either. Including him, he couldn't even get a pair of Mangekyo, which was indeed a bit embarrassing. We must join Anbu as soon as possible. If Huo secretly made up his mind to grow, Mangekyo must get it quickly. He had a vague hunch that based on his current behavior, the third generation was afraid that he would not want him to go to Anbu. If it doesn't work, then you can only join the route. Fortunately, Elder Danzo gave him a thumbs up before he died. Otherwise, he really has no excuse. Speaking of which, is the current Uchiha Madara included in the system? Ruahuo has always been very curious about this issue. Ordinarily, everyone is an Uchiha, and Uchiha Madara was once the head of the Uchiha clan. But when this guy left Konoha, he fired all the Uchiha. This is difficult to assess. What worries Ruahuo most is that if the current A-level strength evaluation of the Uchiha clan really includes Uchiha Madara, and it accounts for a large proportion. This is very possible, and what's even worse is that although the old Madara does not have the Samsara Eye, in terms of strength evaluation, she might still have an S. Who can say for sure? After all, it is the existence of Sanmagatama Kaisuzu. If the Uchiha clan's A-level evaluation really relies on Uchiha Madara's S and drags others down, that would be embarrassing. System, can you understand my concerns? Ruahuo called silently. Although the system is basically an interface, there has been no interaction before. It is said that completing the S-level mission can activate the family vassal function, but he hasn't even touched the side of S yet. After completing the A-level mission, you can unlock the family strength assessment module. The prompt that appears in front of you is the system's response. Then you have to work harder. Punch into the inside of the konoha and join the roots Anbu. Ruahuo narrowed his eyes and said, "It seems the third generation has lost its way." Boom. Kushina fired another tailed beast jade, which shattered layers of earth walls and knocked away many Iwagakure ninjas, including a sealing squad that was trying to get close to Kokuo under cover. But the situation is still not optimistic. Thousands of Iwagakure activate Earth style at the same time. Even if the tailed beast has super destructive power, it will be repaired by the Iwagakure ninjas in the shortest possible time. These guys have a mature set of tailed beast fighting tactics. This tactic is not complicated. It is nothing more than using Earth style to surround the tailed beast, compress the space, consume the power of the tailed beast, and continue to attack. Then the sealing team approaches and uses a large number of sealing techniques to seal the tailed beast. As the last princess of the Kingdom of Whirlpool, Kushina despises these sealing techniques. But there are too many Iwagakure ninjas, and their Earth style is also very powerful. There is no place on the ground to stay, either a swamp or a soil thorn. This is very uncomfortable for Four Tails and Five Tails. And the relationship between Four Tails and Five Tails doesn't seem to be very good. Kushina wanted them to follow Ruahuo's plan from the beginning, Four Tails riding Five Tails, which would definitely be very powerful. But Five Tails was unwilling to do so, and Four Tails also clearly expressed their refusal. Kushina knew that she might have to take a little risk. "Kurama, I know you have been very unhappy these years. When Grandma sealed you into my body, I could feel your anger." In the sealed space, Kushina stood in front of the cage and said suddenly, "HMPH. Nine Tails snorted coldly, not wanting to pay attention to this woman. "I once had the same anger. My home was destroyed, and I escaped under the desperate escort of my tribe. They handed me over to Konoha. Since then, I have never left Konoha. Konoha is actually a big cage for me and Grandma." Kushina's tone is a little low, but very sincere. Chakra and Kushina are linked together in Nine Tails, and I feel it clearly. "HMPH. Nine Tails snorted again, but in a lower voice. Kushina continued, "I don't have many friends. They always like to laugh at me. After being beaten up by me, they start to be afraid of me." Quote. Nine Tails was silent. Kushina did not lie, it was clear. "But later, I conquered a younger brother." Kushina suddenly smiled, and this joy was also conveyed to Nine Tails' feelings. "Although life is still boring, that little brother always works hard to bring me joy." Kushina turned her head and looked at Nine Tails. "Kurama, Wakahui-kun reminded me that humans and tailed beasts are not enemies, they can also be partners. I also want you to be happy. If a human wants to hurt you, I am willing to stand in front of you. So, will you be my little brother?" Quote. Nine Tails was silent for 2 seconds. Roar, swish. Kushina was kicked out of the sealed space, and even Chakra was taken back by Nine Tails. Nine Tails also blocked the gap in the sealed space and forcibly disconnected from Kushina. "What? If you don't want to, just don't want to. Why are you angry?" Kushina pouted, not very cheerful. But suddenly this time. "Wukong, take it as your teacher." Ode. Ruahuo rode the fire dragon and launched a dive, and jumped out in midair. The fire dragon slammed into a kind of rock hidden, while Ruahuo formed a seal in the air. Fire style, the art of peeling off the original world. Buzz. The laser was ejected from the sky by Wakakura, directly cutting a large hole in Iwagakure's Earth style surrounding Four Tails and Five Tails. Roar. Four Tails roared loudly towards the sky. Kokuo and Kurama did not lie to it, it was indeed Indra's chakra. Boom. Four Tails soared into the sky, taking Kushina and Orochimaru with them, and caught Wakahui firmly in the air. Mew. Wong. Ruahuo roared again. Kokuo rolled his eyes when he heard the sound, but he still rushed towards the landing point of Four Tails very cooperatively. The next second, boom, Kokuo sprayed steam from his nostrils, but he still withstood the weight of Four Tails. Snapped. Ruahuo puts his hands together, the powerful tailed beast knight, 1/2, transformed. Do tailed beast knights really have any special advantages? Not really, but in terms of mobility, 5 tails carrying 4 tails has become a bit slower. And the size has become larger, making it easier to be attacked by ninjutsu. If you insist on speaking, the combination of 4 tails and 5 tails can launch tailed beast jade at the same time. But even if it doesn't fit, it doesn't actually matter. But I can't stand how handsome this thing is. Boom. 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 Every step 5 tails Kokuo takes will cause the ground to tremble. 4 tails Goku condensed chakra in his mouth, the tailed beast jade was ready, and blasted the earth-style wall cut by Wakahu. Previously, due to the encirclement of the Iwagakure ninjas, layers of thick and hard earth style kept compressing the 2-tailed beast's movement space, causing the tailed beast jade to only open a limited gap every time it was fired. Then it was quickly repaired by the Iwagakure ninjas who came one after another. But with Ruahuo's laser opening the way and the impact of the tailed beast jade, 4 tails tailed beast jade shot opened a big hole. The sealing team on the outermost edge of the earth wall was affected, many people were thrown away, and they were also exposed. They're going to break out. Quick, make up the gap. Sealing class prepares. Can't delay any longer. Master Lois. The sealing team is not sure whether they can seal 2-tailed beasts at the same time. Then make preparations to seal 4 tails first. Huang Tu waved his hand, he must join the battlefield. Every ninja village has its own way of dealing with tailed beast riots. Iwagakure's method is to use thick earth style to suppress the tailed beasts, and use sophisticated tactics to compress the tailed beast's movement space, but in the final analysis, they still rely on force to suppress them. I saw Lois and a group of rocks jumping on the earth wall. The Iwagakure ninjas are repairing the earth-style wall one by one, trying hard to prevent the tailed beast knight from breaking through. The distance between Lois and the tailed beast knight is getting closer and closer, but the first person to discover him is Orochimaru. Wakahuo-kun, they seem to have someone special here, so be careful. Orochimaru reminded. Ruahuo then noticed that there was an Orochimaru tied to 4 tails' forehead, and blinked, "Teacher, are you still here?" Didn't he imply that Kushina threw Orochimaru in front of the Iwagakure ninjas in the canyon? Why were you tied up all the way? What to do with those prisoners? In order to maintain the stability of the Third Ninja War, he gave up Onoki, Iwagakure's high-value target. He originally wanted to capture more prisoners to stop losses. Nice to see you again, Ruahuo-kun. Although he was tied up and looked a little embarrassed, it did not prevent Orochimaru from maintaining his elegance. But I'm not very happy. Ruahuo muttered, glanced over, and saw Huang Tu's figure. Can a person really not change his appearance for 20 years? There really is. Anyway, Ruahuo was among the group of hidden rocks and recognized the burly Lois at a glance. It's such a big dog. If it's in its 20s, it looks like it's in its 40s. Ruahuo seal, he can remember this person. With his earth style, he first suppressed Geto statue, and then even 10 tails. Fire style, the art of peeling off the original world. Buzz. Sharingan took aim and predicted the movement of the Lois. The moment the Lois was about to hit the ground, a high-temperature laser shot straight towards the Lois in the distance. Swish. Wangtu's head was directly pierced, but his body immediately turned khaki, the Earth clone. Front. Kushina suddenly shouted. In this situation where there are Iwagakure ninjas from all directions, and the number is very likely to be close to 10,000, no matter how good the perception ninja is, it is impossible to accurately lock on the enemy. Chakra is too disruptive, but Lois, who suddenly appeared directly opposite the tailed beast knight, was not in this category. Because this burly ninja is bursting with unparalleled chakra. Earth-style Shantu Jutsu. Boom. The earth walls on both sides suddenly changed their shape, and 2 huge semicircular rocks suddenly merged towards the tailed beast knight. The scale was even larger than the 2 tailed beasts put together. This is the super powerful earth style that can suppress even 10 tails. Ninjutsu type. B-level earth style sand and earth jutsu. Trigger little fire gods passive. You can learn all escape techniques, but they will all be replaced by flames. Successfully learned ninjutsu. Fire style, the art of mountain fire. Thankfully I only learned it now. Ruahuo muttered and said, if this B-level Earth style was obtained on the way to blow up the Shinwubi Bridge, then it might not be a escaping shadow clone, so he might have ignored it. This is a remote enhanced plus version of fire prison technique. With a clap of hands, whoever is burned will be cremated on the spot, and there will be a one-stop funeral. Roar. Ruahuo, who wanted to learn this technique, did not stop him, and Wangtu's timing to activate this technique was just right. However, at the moment Shantu activated it, 4 tails and 5 tails, who were connected with Indra's chakra, also immediately just reacted. I saw 5 tails suddenly stopped, neither breaking out nor retreating, just stopped within the range of the mountain and earth technique. 4 tails suddenly opened its arms and temporarily withstood the combined attack of ninjutsu. I can't hold on for long, Indra. The voice of 4 tails sounded in Ruahuo's mind. Although he had been prepared for it, this was not the first time he had faced this technique. Generally speaking, he didn't like it very much. Leave it to my master. Ruahuo's indifferent eyes were fixed on the Lois in front of him. You just don't want to see the tailed beasts regain their freedom, do you? Ruahuo's voice was not loud, it could even be said that he was mumbling to himself. Of course, Huangtu couldn't hear it. Maybe he could barely tell from the shape of his mouth, but Ruahuo didn't say it to Huangtu. Kushina next to her pursed her lips and said nothing, but her eyes changed slightly. Fire style. Ruahuo suddenly clasped his hands together. Huangtu, who was trying hard to suppress 4 tails, suddenly felt a burst of heat, and then, chant. The 2 sides of the Lois suddenly ignited with raging fire, quickly converging into a semicircle shape. This is just like the fire style version of the mountain and earth technique. Hell of fire. What kind of mountain and earth technique? This is the long-range advanced version of the fire prison technique. Boom. Huangtu immediately gave up the art of mountain and earth and immediately activated his body to escape from the sea of fire. However, it was only for a moment that he was seriously injured. The semicircular boulders on both sides of 4 tails spread out. Although the Iwagakure ninja can also help maintain this technique has not been completed after all. As soon as Lois gives up, this technique will be terminated. Yo, Ruahuo raised his eyebrows. I'm not surprised by Lois's reaction power. The long-range version of fire prison technique, Bendo, is less forward-moving, and everyone can avoid it in advance. Mainly, he suddenly thought of a new way to use this technique. The fire-style version of the mountain and earth technique obviously does not need to rely on terrain to activate. It is somewhat similar to the fire-water dragon bullet, which generates flames in the air. This is obviously an all-around long-range ninjutsu, whether it's air to ground or ground to air. Plus the lava-style chakra 4 tails gave me. Isn't there a fire-style version of planetary devastation? Blood succession limit. Lava-style, activated. How to obtain. Gift from chakra. Trigger the little Vulcan passive. All your escape skills will be replaced by flames, and the attribute fusion is successful. Your flames can obtain solidification effects need to be activated through 4 tails chakra. Freezing effect. Your fire style ninjutsu will enter a solidified state after forming, reducing temperature loss. The duration depends on the amount of 4 tails chakra. 1 4 tails and 1 5 tails respectively gave 2 chakra special effects. 5 tails is a boil-style package, the chakra can add corrosion effects, and you can also enter the Steam Ninja mode through the 5 tails chakra. The increase in 4 tails chakra lacks an S-class tailed beast's native skill. And because of the Little Fire God, Wakahuo's lava style does not have a magma effect, but it has a solidification effect, which is a bit like Terumi Mei's lava style. Paired with defensive fire style, or restricted fire styles such as fire prison technique and mountain fire technique, the effect should be good. Other flowing ninjutsu should also have certain bonuses, such as the sky cry technique. Fire rain can be solidified in the air, the temperature loss is reduced, and the impact force is increased. It can be used to bomb Konoha in the future. Tisk, I still have to join Anbu, but I can't have such thoughts. Single quote. Ruahuo smacked his lips and locked his eyes on Wangtu again. Huangtu was not in a hurry to launch an attack, nor did he pay attention to the serious burns on parts of his body. He made a slight gesture behind his back, and the Iwagakure ninjas immediately began to take action. 5 tails and 4 tails are close to breaking out of the encirclement. It is too late to continue to reinforce the encirclement. If he wants to seal the tailed beast, he must take advantage of now. He must buy some more time. Your nose looks very similar to that little old man's, silly big guy. Do you have any unknown relationship? Ruahuo's voice was louder, and Kushina wasn't the only one who could hear it this time. Quote. Huang Tu pondered for a moment. We have a father-son relationship. Huang Tu actually didn't want to answer. It wasn't that he didn't want to admit the relationship. It was mainly because he was afraid of affecting morale. The imp is back, but the third Tsuchikage is not. Perhaps the only good news is that this kid didn't take his father's. Huang Tu didn't dare to think about it. But he must be prepared for everything. Regardless of the father's situation. Today, Iwagakure's army gathered here, and he must recover these two-tailed beasts and capture Konoha's 9 tails Jinchuriki. The relationship between father and son. Ruahuo nodded thoughtfully. Then you must also know this technique. Fire style, the art of peeling off the original world. Ruahuo forms the yin seal, inhales fiercely, and a large amount of chakra reacts in the body, but it is compressed into a small line of light. There is no sound when the high-temperature laser is activated, but the burned moisture in the air does. A high-temperature laser shot straight towards Huang Tu. Huang Tu successfully used the teleportation technique to dodge, but the wall behind him was directly penetrated. Then Huang Tu heard screams one after another. What is this? My hand, teacher, 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 don't scare me, teacher. No. The Iwagakure behind the earthen wall were constantly moving. After Ruahuo's laser penetrated the earthen wall, many Iwagakure passed by, and one of them accidentally. Kushina frowned. She had experienced this, but she did not sympathize with the enemy. But Kushina really doesn't like this kind of scene. Indeed, no one would like this kind of scene, not even Uchiha Madara, who is not a pervert who enjoys killing people. Neither is Ruahuo, but that doesn't stop Ruahuo from letting others think he is. Being Anbu. You must have darkness within you. You are much faster than that little old man, so he couldn't escape my technique, even though he taught me this technique. If Huo missed the first shot, he fired the second shot. The high-temperature laser shot at Lois again, and this time the forward movement was faster. Lois still managed to dodge, and loudly reminded the ninja behind. Stop moving forward. Lower your body. Lower your body. Lois's reminder was timely, but many Iwagakure ninjas still fell for it. The Iwagakure ninjas all want to seal these two monsters as soon as possible. Now Lord Lois has stopped 4 tails and 5 tails. Next, they only need to completely suppress them, so that the sealing team can reseal the tailed beasts. The screams sounded again, but it could not affect the morale of the Iwagakure ninjas at all. This is not the first time Iwagakure has encountered trouble like a tailed beast going berserk. With so many ninjas dispatched this time, it is only a matter of time before they take down the tailed beast. As for sacrifice, this is a battlefield. Ruahuo ignored it and fired the third laser, still aimed at Lois, but the damage was borne by other Iwagakure. Kushina couldn't stand it anymore. Shout Ruahuo, there are many people surrounding them. Kushina didn't want to stop Ruahuo, but wanted to remind Ruahuo that it was time to find a way to escape from the battlefield. But Ruahuo ignored it, and the 3 Magatama still locked onto Lois. Are you sure you want to continue hiding? After missing 3 laser shots in a row, Ruahuo didn't plan to continue using it. After all, this technique was very heavy on the eyes. Quote. Lois did not respond, but made a gesture to the Iwagakure ninja under the earth wall behind him. In order to prevent unnecessary casualties, he temporarily stopped advancing. It seems that you are indeed smarter than your father. He doesn't know how to hide. He was hit by me twice in a row and I don't know if he can save his arm. Huang Tu was shocked. This brat was not making alarmist remarks to undermine Iwagakure's morale. Dad was indeed hit twice with the same technique before he attacked and took him away. Seeing that the Iwagakure ninjas were about to complete the encirclement, Huang Tu gritted his teeth, but still couldn't hold back and asked in a deep voice, "Where is Mr. Third Generation, now?" "In Iwagakure village, he is Iwagakure's shadow after all." Ruahuo answered simply. Huang Tu frowned. Obviously he didn't believe this answer. "But you don't have to worry. although he refuses to surrender to me. After all, I learned a lot from him. In return, I have asked Shadow Clone to send him back to Iwagakure. But then again, having said this, Ruahuo suddenly grinned, revealing a joking but cruel smile. As a shadow of the village, you should at least be buried in the village, right? It's such a pity that he missed many opportunities to die with me in order not to hurt you. He is a qualified actor. It is indeed a pity that you, who were protected by him, cannot attend his funeral. But it doesn't matter. I have asked the entire Yenian village to be buried with him. Snapped. Ruahuo suddenly clasped his hands together. After receiving the signal, Five Tails finished charging its limbs, and chakra had already reached the boiling point. It ejected and rushed directly towards the last few earth walls. Four Tails has chakra condensed on the back of Five Tails, and the tailed beast Jade is ready. Sealing class prepares. Lois immediately shouted loudly, blocked the tailed beast Jade, and then used the mountain soil technique to trap the tailed beast. This was Iwagakure's last chance. Boom. The tailed beast Jade was indeed blocked, but there was also a gap in the final defense. Earth-style Shantu Jutsu. Thousands of Iwagakure ninjas activated the mountain and earth jutsu at the same time, and the scale was so huge that it even exceeded the combined size of Four Tails and Five Tails. After all, more than half of the ninjas in Iwagakure Ninja Village are here. Roar. At the critical moment, Four Tails suddenly grabbed several people on its head, including Ruahuo, and swung the three people directly into the sky. King Kong blockade. Kushina immediately tied Orochimaru with chains. Of course, in this case, the confinement time was over. Kushina just didn't want Orochimaru to fly too far. Kushina's hands are holding Ruahuo tightly, and chakra is constantly being transported into Ruahuo's body. Wakahui injects these chakra into ninjutsu immediately. Five Tails and Four Tails were temporarily sealed by Shantu Jutsu, so Ruahuo is welcome. I hope this technique can give you some inspiration to give me a domineering nickname. Ruahuo's eyes turned cold. Fire style Great Fire Destruction. Ruahuo's fire style is mostly pronounced as fire style, but it is actually an ordinary great fireball with 5 times the basic power. War can always temper people. During these 2 trips to Iwagakure, Ruahuo has improved a lot. Indeed, whether it was the chakra special effects of lava style boil style, or the laser technique, that he thought he would have to wait until he learned the water-breaking wave to master. Wakahuo's gains in the past 2 days, although there is not much display on the system panel, only an unrelated, Sharingan Genjutsu, has been promoted from B to A, but when he fully digests what he has gained this time, the overall evaluation will not say that he has broken through to the shadow level. At least Elite Jonin. Well, Elite Jonin probably can't break through. The physical limitations are here, and the physical attributes are so limited that not even chakra can bear much. Age is Ruahuo's advantage, but also Ruahuo's shortcoming. If Huo has heard a saying in his previous life, he should do something at a certain age. It's dawn. Ruahuo raised his head and looked at the rising sun, somewhat sighing. Happy birthday, Wakahu-kun. Orochimaru is always so considerate. The dates in the 2 worlds are not equal. Ruahuo's birth date in this world is 2 years back from the day when Grandma picked him up. Not many people know about this thing, but it's not difficult to find out. After all, it's on Ruahuo's identity file. But Orochimaru clearly remembers it clearly. After today, Ruahuo Junk will be 7 years old. Thank you, teacher, for being the first person besides Obito and Grandma to say happy birthday to me. Ruahuo said sincerely. Then I'll be the second one. Kushina also came over. Xiao Ruahuo, is there any birthday gift you want? My sister is very rich and can buy you anything you want. A birthday gift. Ruahuo thought about it carefully and shook his head. I already got the birthday gift I wanted most. Although it is not a one-on-one challenge. But Iwagakure's numbers were there after all, and Onoki was defeated head-on by his tactics. Well, rounding it off, Iwagakure was actually defeated by him alone. At the age of 7, Ruahuo was very satisfied with himself for being able to achieve this achievement of Long Aocean. At least he did not embarrass the army of time traveler cheats. This is also thanks to the support of Mr. Iwagakure. The Earth-style formation used to besiege 4 Tails and 5 Tails, comparable to a giant city wall, perfectly absorbed the Great Fireball 101 Max. The Mountain Earth Jutsu used to suppress 4 tails and 5 tails actually became a sanctuary for these 2-tailed beasts. When the Iwagakure reacted, the 2-tailed beasts broke out of the ground, directly, walking through the remaining warmth of the fire, through the earth-style maze that was unable to maintain, and just walked out of the encirclement of Iwagakure. As for how many Iwagakure ninjas died under this great fireball, which had a scale of 101 times and a base power increase of 5 times. Ruahuo didn't know and didn't care. The Uchiha clan never bothers to do last-ditch strikes on the battlefield, but to be able to withstand such an ultimate great fireball, he and Iwagakure. He doesn't seem to have any issues with Iwagakure. Then the accounts between 4 tails and 5 tails and Iwagakure will be settled. From now on, Uchiha's 4 tails and 5 tails will be completely free again. But then again, Ruahuo sat on the head of 5 tails, facing the early sun, and looked at Orochimaru who was tied to the horns of 5 tails. "Teacher, why have we been fighting for so long without the other Konoha ninjas coming to cheer us up? It was so dangerous just now. I almost thought I would never see my grandma and 2 younger brothers again." That's right, Kushina was also a little angry. How long has it been since we set off? It's already dawn, so it's time for them to crawl here. Is there a possibility? Orochimaru, who was used to being tied up like this by Kushina, smiled and said, "Most Konoha ninjas don't actually know that our support army is still fighting the Iwagakure ninjas on the front line." Iwagakure ninja, Kushina frowned, but weren't they all cooked by Kawakiku? The Iwagakure ninjas are far more powerful than this, Kushina. Orochimaru shook his head, but refused to argue. Wakaki did not doubt Orochimaru's words. You know, Iwagakure, who has full points in the tactics of the violent soldier style, can still gather 10,000 ninjas in the later stages of the fight. Moreover, Iwagakure is very stable. No matter how many ninjas attack outside, there are still many garrison troops in the village. Going to test the Little Vulcan version of Dust-Style's Shadow Clone has confirmed this. Wakahui estimated that it was a preparation to prevent Kumogakure's surprise attack. Just like Uchiha, although Konoha has been squeezing Uchiha out, once a war breaks out, the Uchiha Security Department can become Konoha's penultimate line of defense. But the situation is obviously different now. Because of his push and Orochimaru's great help, Uchiha, the demon sword that was supposed to be unsealed later in the war, has now arrived on the battlefield ahead of schedule. Looking at the Uchiha in the distance who were all wearing green vests and flashing Sharingan, only a few dozen people could intimidate hundreds of Iwagakure ninjas, Wakaka felt gratified from the bottom of his heart. It has to be a family of pink-eye patients. Wakahui jumped down from 5 Tails' head, summoned a fire dragon in midair, launched a dive towards the Uchiha, passed over a group of Iwagakure, and finally locked onto Fugaku's position and landed steadily. "You little devil." Fugaku saw Ruahuo from a distance, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He looked around Ruahuo up and down again, made sure he was not injured, and breathed a sigh of relief again. "Fortunately, nothing is missing, otherwise I really don't know how to explain it to your grandma. You little guy, don't be so messy in the future." Ruahuo frowned. The worry in Fugaku's words was not fake, but it was not what he wanted. "What's wrong?" Seeing Ruahuo's unhappy expression, Fugaku felt a little nervous. Could it be, who died? But Fugaku just looked through the telescope. Kushina is still there, Orochimaru is also there, and 5 Tails is also very good. This was the case when this team set out, and there was an extra 4 Tails when they came back. So what went wrong? Nothing. Ruahuo shook his head. Even Orochimaru knows how to say happy birthday to him, the clan leader Fugaku. Forget it, he won't last long anyway. The Uchiha clan must have its own route, and Wakahara has decided to let Fugaku be the head of the route. After several years of training on the battlefield, I finally found an opportunity to sacrifice. Well, it also helps the tribesmen to open their eyes and so on. Kushina once again showed how powerful she is. King Kong Blockade can summon many chakra chains, which can block chakra, and it is not only useful for tailed beasts. Orochimaru has already tried it personally. He was tied up by Kushina from dusk to dawn, during which he experienced the unblocking of 4 tails, and the 18 tails roared in unison, 5 + 4 + 9. Not only did his eardrums shatter, but his brain was not very clear for a while. He was thrown around by Kushina above the Iwagakure troops, and kept coming to 5 tails and 4 tails. He was unable to resist the whole time. Chakra was like a quagmire, and he couldn't even try to struggle. But the absolute blockade of chakra is just the tip of the iceberg of Kushina's power. Without borrowing the 9 tails chakra, Kushina could separate 400s of meters of chains by herself, and accurately tie every Iwagakure ninja tightly. These are hundreds of Iwagakure ninjas. Like bacon hanging on a rope, the strings were hung on the shoulders of 4 tails. Even so, Kushina still doesn't feel any pressure. Shao Wakahui, there are still many Iwagakure ninjas left over there, and the big man is also there. Do you want to capture them back to Konoha? The big man refers to Lois. Faced with the earth style, which was like a fire-like artificial sun, Lois did not retreat even half an inch. He used all his strength to dig out a huge space underground and protected many Iwagakure ninjas. But he himself also suffered a lot of injuries. What surprised Ruahuo was that this guy was still alive. He originally wanted to add another, dying to death, Bufto Onoki. But it doesn't matter. If Lois is alive, it's not a good thing for Konoha, so there's nothing wrong with it. And Huangtu is also the father of Leg Shadow, well. As long as we take prisoners, we won't care about them. Ruahuo still rejected Kushina's proposal. But those people are also prisoners, right? Fugaku, who had the honor of standing on 4 tails for the first time, said, there are not many high-value targets among these people. If those who have lost their fighting spirit are considered prisoners, Iwagakure over there is just a defeated one. They have not lost their will to resist. Ruahuo frowned and said, Grandma said that we should respect every opponent. Even if we are defeated opponents, we can give them a chance to challenge again. We Uchiha are not afraid of being challenged, let alone being challenged by losers. This is the source of our Uchiha's strength. Understand the applause. Bang bang bang. Kushina was the first to cheer and gave Ruahuo a thumbs up. Grandma is absolutely right. Quote. Fugaku felt that there were 5 fingerprints on his face, and each one was inseparable from Ruohuo, but when he thought about it carefully, Ruohuo was right. As expected of Uchiha from the older generation. You were right, Lord Ruohuo, it was Grandma who taught me another lesson. Fugaku's humility and open-mindedness also won the followers of his tribe. Ruohuo watched it silently, and had to say that Fugaku, the leader of the Uchiha clan, had a good reputation in terms of his future achievements, not to mention his future achievements. Unfortunately, in the end, he acquiesced to letting his son massacre the entire clan, and as the owner of Mangekyo, Fugaku didn't even have the intention to resist. Even if it saves some people. 2 sons are sons, but children from other tribes are not. You still have a lot to learn, Chief Fugaku. Ruahuo said coldly. Quote. Fugaku wouldn't answer this. Ruahuo's eyes were still cold, and he did not intend to hide it, but said clearly, and there is not much time left for you. Quote. Fugaku wouldn't even answer this, he didn't even understand. I originally wanted to challenge you after I became a chunin, but the teacher told me that it would be best to settle down a little longer and wait until I become a jonin. I have accumulated a lot of combat achievements recently. The teacher said that I have the qualifications to become a jonin. What I lack now is just experience. Ruakao said coldly. When I obtain the jonin level of Will of Fire, you will no longer be my opponent. Quote. Fugaku was silent. He originally wanted to say that if he wanted to challenge the clan leader, just becoming a jonin was not enough. He had to work hard to practice, and he also had to gain the support of his clan members. No matter when, it is very important to encourage the younger generation. But looking at the sincere and firm look in Ruohuo's eyes, and considering Ruohuo's 2-tailed beast partners now, and Ruohuo's previous ambitions that often accidentally fell to the ground, Fugaku realizes, I'm afraid this guy is serious. Fugaku pursed his lips. He frowned slightly and looked at Ruohuo. There were outsiders nearby, and there were some things he couldn't say, but he felt that even if he said some things in private, this kid wouldn't listen. Lord Ruohuo, I have a question for you. Fugaku finally made a decision. Just say it, Tong Yanwuji, Uchiha's future is the most important. You ask, Although we are rivals, Grandma said that. You have to respect your opponent, I know. Fugaku interrupted quickly, deepened his determination, and said bravely. Tell me the truth. You want to become the clan leader, don't you? Tsk, are you still planning to let your partners destroy Hyuga? Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. As soon as Fugaku finished speaking, all Uchiha, including Wakahui, showed surprised expressions. What did the patriarch just say? This little guy has always planned to use tailed beasts to destroy Konoha. Ah, Hyuga. Kushina was even more so. She stared at Ruahuo with her big eyes. She didn't expect this little guy to be so wild. Orochimaru, on the other hand, had a "I see" expression in his eyes. No wonder that night, Fugaku-kun was so impatient that he wanted to speak but couldn't hold back. Ruahuo was also surprised. This matter. Does Fugaku really dare to say it? Orochimaru is still here. Ruahuo pursed his lips, frowned, and looked at Fugaku. Both of them looked at each other, and their positions were extremely stable. A long time. Is there anything wrong? Ruahuo said calmly. Since there was a showdown, he simply stopped acting. Let's not talk about the Hyuga clan's shameless behavior of competing with Uchiha as the largest clan in the ninja world. They also injured Obito. As an elder brother and an Uchiha, shouldn't I make it my duty to eradicate Hyuga? Wakahuo's eyes were as bright as a torch, and he said forcefully, and the Hyuga clan has the ability to see through things, so they can easily obtain Konoha's confidential information. As one of the heirs of the root organization appointed by Elder Danzo, shouldn't I eliminate these rats from Konoha? Boom, boom. Four Tails is walking forward step by step. Although it is also called Sun Wukong and even Kakuzu is copying the golden hoop, Four Tails is indeed just an orange gorilla. Walking like a gorilla, every step feels powerful. Walking side by side with Five Tails, who is taking a leisurely stroll, the speed is not too slow. But on Four Tails' head, there was a strange scene. Quiet, deathly silence. Fugaku was the first to be defeated from the confrontation. Ruahuo's clear and firm eyes held a kind of stubbornness, and a kind of confusing stubbornness. Coupled with Ruahuo's size, it is easy to think of a kind of dream called youth, which makes people not bear to expose it, and even want to protect and encourage it. But this kid's dream is too dangerous. The key point is that this guy is quite reasonable. Ruahuo gave 3 reasons. Fugaku automatically ignored the reason. Obito was beaten, although it seemed to be the only normal reason. In fact, Fugaku has always had an extremely unhappy attitude towards the competitive relationship between Hyuga and Uchiha. They are obviously a clan of cowards who carve caged birds on their foreheads, but they dare to compete with Uchiha for the largest clan in the ninja world. How come I never saw you competing before Konoha was established? You are so shameless and don't realize it. Competing with this kind of family is clearly an insult to Uchiha. But just like that, the two-tailed beasts will destroy Hyuga. It's really not that Fugaku has a weak character. Uchiha present felt that this idea was a bit exaggerated and very dangerous. What puzzled Fugaku was the 3rd reason given by Ruahuo. How come you became Danzo, the successor of Elder Danzo? Fugaku's temples were pounding. What on earth had he missed? Elder Danzo once gave an explanation. Orochimaru, who was tied next to him, smiled and said, the root organization's interception of Sakumo-kun's distress signal was actually a test for Sakumo-kun. Wakao-kun believes that this is the selection of the root successor by Elder Danzo, and Sakumo-kun passed this assessment. Ruahuo added. He made up for it by cutting off Elder Danzo's arm in the end, so he passed the make-up exam. Quote. Fugaku said nothing because he didn't understand. And Orochimaru was tied up like that, just like those Iwagakure prisoners, he didn't understand much. But the one who tied him up was Kushina Uzumaki, who was a bit powerful, and it was difficult for Fugaku to say anything. But I am different. Ruahuo puffed up his chest. I have perfectly completed the task given to me by Elder Danzo, and I have been recognized by Elder Danzo himself. My assessment results must be higher than Uncle Bai Mao's. Quote. Fugaku doesn't quite understand yet, but he probably understands the meaning. Frowning slightly, Fugaku no longer looked at Wakahui, but exhaled, regained his composure, and looked at Orochimaru. Mr. Orochimaru, you are this child's teacher. I would like to ask for advice on behalf of this child and his grandmother. Is this what Hokage-sama means? After all, this topic is a bit sensitive for Uchiha. Fugaku, who has always been cautious, needs to find an endorsement from Orochimaru. But unfortunately, no matter how tied up a creature like a snake is, it is still slippery. I don't know about this, Fugaku-kun. You know, I was with Mr. Ruahuo all the time, and immediately came to the battlefield with Mr. Ruahuo afterwards. I didn't have a chance to report to the teacher yet. Ruahuo also interjected. Besides, did Chief Fugaku ask the wrong person? Elder Danzo clearly made the decision on this matter. You have to ask Elder Danzo. Indeed, Orochimaru cooperated. Didn't Chief Fugaku see Elder Danzo for the last time? Didn't that gentleman never mention it to Chief Fugaku? If Elder Danzo had mentioned it, why should I ask? This is obviously because this little guy misunderstood the meaning of Elder Danzo, right? If it was a test, there would be no need for Elder Danzo to commit suicide and apologize. Fugaku breathed out. Elder Danzo only returned the eyes of the tribe and did not explain anything to me. Lord Third Generation never mentioned it to me either. Ruahuo, this may be a misunderstanding, don't. But what does this have to do with my desire to destroy Hyuga? Wakahara frowned and interrupted. Elder Danzo has spent his whole life cleaning up rats. His will of fire is so clear. Isn't this a fact? The Hyuga clan poses a very high threat to Konoha. They are very likely to steal Konoha's information. They are an out-and-out rat clan. For the sake of Konoha, shouldn't this rat clan be eliminated? Quote. Many Uchiha did not realize the seriousness of the matter, but could not help laughing. Kushina listened in confusion, but perhaps due to preconceptions, she still felt that what Ruahuo said made sense, but it was difficult to express it. Orochimaru smiled and said nothing. Fugaku's temples jumped. But if he wants to stop Wakahui's idea, he must excuse Hyuga, such as, the Hyuga clan is also the ninja family of the village, the Hyuga ninjas have also contributed to the village, we just have conflicts with Hyuga, it is not immortal never stop. Fugaku couldn't say this kind of thing. After holding it in for a long time, Fugaku finally found a compromise. Ruahuo-kun, the Hyuga clan's clan land is actually the property of Konoha and the village. They only live there temporarily and may move there in the future. I understand your feelings, but you can't use the tailed beast Tama on Konoha, right? Now that the matter has come to this, Fugaku doesn't intend to scold Ruahuo or anything. No matter what this kid thinks of Hyuga. It doesn't matter, anyway, his teacher is Orochimaru, and Orochimaru's teacher is third-generation master. As for the relationship between the Uchiha clan and Hyuga, can't you use the tailed beast jade on the village? Ruahuo repeated this sentence, thinking seriously for several seconds. His expression was extremely tangled, but soon he didn't know what he thought of, raised his eyebrows, and suddenly became enlightened. I see. Quote. Looking at Wakahui's expression, Fugaku had reason to suspect that if this kid found out one day that the Hyuga clan had left Konoha, he would definitely let the tailed beast activate the tailed beast Tama. But what Fugaku doesn't know is, Wakahara actually doesn't have that much prejudice against Hyuga. From the very beginning, Wakahuo had only one goal, to cut down Konoha. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.